technically the Zodiac Files, maybe a hybrid show of Paradigm Review Show. Not really sure, but we're going to work it out. We have the Zodiac Killer 1971, the finest satirical comedy I've ever seen in the Zodiac verse. Joining us today, we have our friend Andrew Druzer Gray. We have Black Box Ned from BBOR. Go check out his channel. Maybe just do some intro drops, starting off with Druzer, wherever people can find you, find your stuff, communicate with you, however you like.
Where's Gaz? I thought we might see Gaz.
Yeah. He melted
Hardly
down
a
on me.
Paradigm Review without Gaz.
That's true. That's true. He melted down on me on Fear and Loathing. It wasn't his favorite movie, so he might still be in a bad mood.
Oh, no kidding. I saw a few minutes of it. I didn't see that, though.
For sure, but where can peeps find you, Drews? What if they want to reach out to you and communicate with you on the forum?
I'm on Tap a Talk. That's Tom Voigt's ZodiacKiller.com message board. I'm on Discord as well.
Yep. Okay, so find Druzer there. He's got a lot of good input on the forum, and of course, Ned. I think people know where to find you, but remind them.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. And firstly, I would like to say thank you, Ross, for having me today. My name is Ned Dehan, also known as Black Box Ned. I am the host of Black Box Online Radio on Facebook, and I also am the admin for the group The Zodiac Killer Library on Facebook. Did I say Black Box Online Radio on Facebook? That's on YouTube. Well, there's a Facebook page. You know, it's like, got my words planned ahead. It's kind of like jumping ahead. Yeah, Black Box Online Radio is on YouTube, Facebook, maybe some other places. But anyway, it's really great to be here to talk about the 1971 Zodiac movie. I mentioned it on my channel 7 years ago. I just realized that it was 7 years ago when I did a partial episode, like I did half of an episode about the 1971 film. And, you know, it's a wild story. And as Ross and I were going over before we started, it's almost as if the making of the movie and the creation of this film is even wilder than the movie itself. So it looks like we'll have a lot to go over. And hi to Fire Pixie. Fire Pixie is well alive in the chat.
Yeah, I definitely have respect for Tom Hanson. You know, I think he took some risk going public with this type of thing. Me and Druzer were kind of talking about that a little bit offline. So for those who don't know, we'll kind of get into it. We'll pull up the Wikipedia, then we can get into Druzer's PowerPoint. And I took some notes of the film. We grabbed that, and obviously some of the absolutely hilarious dialogue quotes in this movie. Bit of a low budget grindhouse masterpiece. Again, I think Ned kind of set the expectation. So it's no David Fincher. So if you're coming over here for 2007 David Fincher ensemble cast of Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, Jake Gyllenhaal, you're just not going to get it. This film, consider it Fincher with like less than 5% of the budget, right, of Warner Brothers or Paramount. But still a super interesting story. There is one YouTube video, maybe a few of them. Druzer, I was wondering, the Treehouse Detective channel, have you seen that guy's video? He did the whole story of Tom Hanson and that whole thing.
I did. He needs to do some more research.
Yeah, brush up a little bit. I didn't think it was terrible for a random guy. You know what I mean?
For a random guy, it's pretty good.
Let's keep in mind nothing's ever going to live up to Druzer's standard of the facts, but it's all good. It's all good. Okay, boys. Well, I'm just going to jump us in on Wikipedia. If you have anything at any spot, feel free to jump in. So, The Zodiac Killer is a 1971 slasher film directed by Tom Hanson, starring Hal Reed, Bob Jones, Ray Lynch, and Tom Pittman. The plot is based on the murders committed by the Zodiac Killer in the San Francisco area, though it takes many liberties with the actual investigation, with the film providing a name and backstory for the killer. If you guys want, I can just rip through the plot and some of these other notes, unless you have anything before we get into that.
I guess if we're going to like just kind of talk about the preliminaries, it's a telling of the Zodiac Killer story, and it's not 100% accurate. And what they really did was they blended the real narrative, which it seems like they had access to, that they understood completely, with a bunch of fictitious things that did not happen, but you can really tell that it was all done on purpose. And we can go through all of like these specific points one by one, and I'm sure we will throughout the duration of this program. But and as Ross already said, they have caught the Zodiac. They've identified the Zodiac. They don't catch him, but like we know his name, and it's Jerry. Can you imagine that the Zodiac's name has been Jerry the whole time? All right.
I should save this, but just to get in on the synchronicity going right off the start. So the suspect in the movie is a mailman, and then the guy that Tom Hanson supposedly catches at the screening, we'll get into that after the review, and then he basically follows that guy around investigating him. That guy was a mailman. So coincidence there that the guy that he identified, we just had the same procession as the character in the movie. Crazy. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's good or bad, basically, is where I'm going with that comment. But yeah, we'll get into it. So yeah, we'll get into the inconsistencies and what's right and what's wrong. You know, Druzer has some of the facts in his PowerPoint. We'll talk about that as well. So plot: the film is a highly fictionalized, as Ned said, telling of a month in the life of the Zodiac Killer, played by Hal Reed. The film follows the killer, whose identity as the Zodiac Killer is not revealed until the end of the first act of the film, and a friend, Grover, a drunk toupee-wearing truck driver who is divorced from his wife and in financial trouble from his divorce. As they meet and go about their normal day, Grover eventually has a nervous breakdown due to the upheaval in his life caused by his divorce, as he is denied the right to visit his daughter when he makes a surprise visit to his ex-wife. Taking his daughter hostage, the police are called and he tries to escape. Grover sees the day's paper laying on the front steps announcing another murder by the Zodiac Killer. In a fit of madness, he declares himself the Zodiac Killer and lets his daughter go in order to flee. The police shoot him dead as he falls into the nearby pool. Probably the funniest unintentional comedy moment of the film, when he screams out, "I'm the Zodiac," in a shootout with the cops, and then gets shot in the backyard and falls in the pool. But there's a nice shot there, Druzer, of the gun falling to the bottom of the pool. So there's that. This is just how this review is going to go, boys. I didn't direct the movie, so we're just going to keep cruising on. The second act of the film follows the real Zodiac Killer, as Ned said. Ooh, breakthrough. Who the film positions as having a day job as much put upon a postal carrier. The death of his friend causes him to phone the police to announce that the man they killed was not the Zodiac Killer, then goes about a major killing spree, culminating in him murdering a pair of lovers in the park. The film also portrays him as a Satanist and one who actively kills those in his personal life who mock him or are mean to him in his normal life, or who he hears mock his alter ego. So a few things to unpack there. Let me see if I can organize these. So the lovers in the park, when he gave them the hot dogs, is that's supposed to be like reminiscent of Berryessa, I guess? Like the canonical recreations were really quite confusing.
Oh, really? Really? The lovers in the park with the hot dogs? I thought that was reminiscent of Domingos Edwards, because it's like, like I said, they're taking the real events, but they aren't doing it in a way that is 100% accurate, because you had them walking by, the seaside, right? I think is that one. That's a seaside park. And then the guy's name is Dick in that. She calls him Dick. We don't hear her name, but Dick, like, Robert Domingos, but it's not too far away from Richard. And then, but then there's also, just like, I even thought they were going to have it kind of like set up like the seaside shack, but it turned out he's actually sitting by a fence. He's not in a seaside shack, and they're just cooking some hot dogs. But that was a seaside event. But as I said, it's not 100% accurate, and this is a total spoiler, but those two get away. They're not shot, they're not stabbed. And what we were meant to think is that they were going to get murdered, but some car came up with their headlights and it startled Jerry the Zodiac. So he dropped, his items, and they just had to get out of there. But I thought that was Domingos Edwards. What did you think, Druzer?
I think the only borderline ethical decision that was made in the film was to not make them exactly like the actual case files.
Sure.
Like, this is in April 1971, so this could not have been more fresh for these people.
Yeah, well, also with the independent budget, I'm going to put budget in quotes for lack of the budget in this movie. Like you've read Shooting Zodiac, Druzer. Have you read Shooting Zodiac, Ned?
Nope.
Oh, neither of you guys have. Okay, so
I've argued with a lot of people about it, but no, I haven't actually read it.
I get you. In my opinion, it's the only good Graysmith because it's much more retrospective than I was there and I was following the suspect. You know, the way that Yellow Cover is like I was right on his heels, I just never caught him. But Shooting Zodiac is much more like interviews with like the inspector who was in charge at the time, much after the Zodiac era, and then obviously first person Toschi. Think a little bit of Armstrong in there. And the big thing about that was they had to call Toschi and get him to sign off on his name, to use his name in the film. I think he was the last one to do it. So there's a lot of like legality involved. Like you can like I was confused at Lake Herman Road. I'm not going to lie to you guys, because when David pulled up in the VW bus, I was like, I'm pretty sure David was like a conservative, like straight edge. Like, why is he driving a VW bus? And also like he was driving his mom's Rambler. You know what I mean? So it's like, so the only thing that cued me was the Christmas concert. I was like, okay, I think his name was Jed or Judd, but you know what I mean? Again, that was David. So I was confused many times. I'm not going to lie.
I thought it was interesting that Graysmith waited for everyone to die before he released that book.
Yeah, for sure.
That's as far as I'll go.
Oh, Yellow Cover.
No one could corroborate what he's.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What he proclaims there.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, if we want to if we want to talk about the Lake Herman Road murders that were depicted in the 1971 film, it's a lot of what these guys are saying is that, firstly, they do not use any of the real victims' names. All of the names have been changed. Even when they do somewhat, not exactly honest recreations, but attempted recreations of the crimes, they do have what they call the murders at the reservoir. They don't call it Lake Road, they call it the reservoir. And they have the Zodiac sneaking up on these two individuals. I don't know how old they were in the film. They looked older than 17 and 16. And the Zodiac fired much more quickly in the movie. Like, he's shooting David while he's sitting in the front seat of the car. And I think that maybe that was even a misconception that some people had. Because, of course, David was shot mostly upon exit, and Druzer can get these some of these specifics right, like if he wants to be more accurate. But what I said the first time I talked about this was, we might have this conception of the Zodiac where he's like wearing all black and he's got like the costume and such. Maybe he has like a navy blue windbreaker. But they had the Zodiac Killer wearing this red-orange jacket and blue jeans.
Bright red jacket.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, hey, there are no witnesses at Lake Herman Road. Who's to say that that didn't happen? If there are no witnesses of what the killer was wearing, how do we know the Zodiac didn't go out, in some brightly colored thing that you could see from outer space? Like, I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
But ultimately, yes, he shoots David as he's sitting in the front seat of the car. David does get out, and then he's on the passenger side with his feet to the car. That was accurate. And Betty Lou was running away, and the Zodiac's using his pencil flashlight and guns her down. That was also accurate. Like I said, they knew the real facts of the case, and they decided to kind of bend them to fit their movie narrative. I mean, did you guys get that vibe?
Oh yeah.
It was so repugnant in every sense, making a campy, idiotic film, but by not dragging the victims through the mud, by literally recreating it, keeping their names, making them resemble the actual people. I thought that was a saving grace.
And the locations too.
Yeah. Essentially the plan was absurd and would never work, as clever as it may be. So really all they were doing was the same thing Zodiac was doing.
So the location for Lake Herman, it kind of looked like where she went down. That kind of looked like the type of gravel terrain that Betty went down on. I mean, what was way off, I'm sure you noticed right away, Druzer, was him standing over the David stand-in and dumping a bunch more shots in him and reloading. That was more of a Blue Rock Springs thing. And then standing over Betty and shooting in her too. Also, it looked like, from the way the actress reacted, that she got shot in the leg first and kind of went down, and that's obviously not what happened. But anyway, it's a totally random, low budget grindhouse movie. So not factually perfect, as we've all said.
No, and I'm sure it was extremely conscious to not make it like the reports. Paul Avery was a consultant on this, so they
Gotcha.
did have access to what actually happened. Yeah, and they wanted it to be funny, and the only it was one of the things that actually got me through it was it's hard not to admire the scheme, even though it was pure exploitation and had nothing to do with justice, but the spirit that was put into it. It was a $13,000 budget, and no one got paid a dime.
Yeah.
But you know, it's hard not to root for a guerrilla filmmaker like Hanson. Terrible, and artless as that film is.
I mean, so let me just ask your opinion then, Druzer, because we've never talked about this film before. Do you not respect the goal of trying to, me and Ned were talking about this off air, have the local screening in SF play to Zodiac? Because Zodiac himself, later on in the timeline, right, he says, I wonder when they'll make a movie about me, who would play me, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, Hal Reed makes Jerry look like a raving lunatic idiot in this film, as you're both about to point out. So do you not respect the overall goal of the, we'll talk about it when we finish the review, but the Indian motorcycle raffle, see if you can get Zodiac to show up to this thing with dropping the handwriting into the thing, and just see if you can get a lead on Zodiac, you know?
It was really clever. I can't imagine it working, but yeah, I mean, I've made films for very little money, and it is sort of an act of faith to do so. I mean, you can't help but root for the guys, but I mean, gosh, it was just disgusting.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, even the way the film starts with like stabbing the random lady and the blood dripping into the cross. I mean, it's all very grindhouse and very over the top. But the Paul Avery quote, you know, it does give it a little bit of validity. Kind of, it starts off from a grounded place. Pretty much after that frame, it kind of loses grounding from there. Is the whole Grover situation and the Act One, placebo. Obviously, Zodiac is not this trucking, traveling salesman that wears a toupee and has these two aliases. I almost got like an Alan vibe from that guy. You know, I don't know if that's where Hanson pulled that. You know,
I absolutely did, Ross. I'm so glad you said that, because for the people who haven't seen this one, the guy's name is Grover or McDerry or something like that, but his name's Grover. But absolutely, I was just thinking the whole time, that's Arthur Lee Allen. Was he based on the real Lee Allen from like conversations that they may have had? Quite possibly, but the whole concept of how you have this unsavory individual who's doing a lot of shady things that they would love to vilify as the Zodiac. The only problem is they're faced with contradictory evidence, as Ross already said in the summary, because now Jerry, the boss, wants to call people up and say things that he's making the phone call, but I mean, we can talk about the phone calls later on if you want, or if you want to go through it now, because I think we still have some things, to discuss from the beginning of the movie.
Are you talking about the truck driver?
Yeah, Grover is the truck driver, and he pretends to be a salesman, like the dual alias. He's like what would you call that? A charlatan or a?
There's a more specific reference for that gentleman.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean,
it's weird. I sort of loathe the term Easter eggs for some reason. It's just always sort of gives me the willies.
I got you.
But that's what this film is it's taking little stories from the Zodiac campaign and just sort of filtering it in there for fun.
Well, even Larry Kane, right? Criminal, multiple aliases. So it gives those kind of vibes, this guy that's going around pretending to be someone else, blah, blah, blah. Shout out to Fire Pixie for our donation. If you want us to talk about some topic or something, Pixie, feel free to throw it in there.
She's on all of these podcasts. Everywhere. She's so supportive. Always
helps us out with the moderating. Whatever you guys want. Are there other frames, other things in the beginning that you want to shout out, or I can keep going with this summary, wherever you guys want to go?
Absolutely. Like, when we're talking about blending the real stories with their composed narrative, Ross just said at the very beginning that a woman is stabbed outside, and the blood goes onto the sidewalk. I thought that was a direct reference to Sherry Jo Bates
Yeah,
because, I mean, it's the stabbing prior to the Zodiac murders, even though it's during the daytime and she's calling out and screaming, and it's not done in the same way. But there also was an African-American man who was shot at the very beginning. Like, that was the first murder.
Oh.
But there was an African-American male who was murdered in Vallejo, like around the time of Lake Herman Road. I was discussing this with Lee McNamara, and I had forgotten his name. I have forgotten his name. Druzer, do you remember his name by chance?
Burrell?
Sounds
That
correct.
sounds right. That sounds right. It's just, we were discussing that. I think he was 38 years old.
Burrell? Yeah, he interested a few of the reporters. I know Peterson wrote about him as a potential victim. Yeah.
So it's like there were some very specific things that I thought they were referring to. And I don't know how you could say that the woman who's killed at the beginning by knife was not a reference to Sherry Jo Bates. You have the stabbing prior to the Zodiac's canonical murders where she's killed outside, and the only thing that was missing was the lime green Volkswagen Bug.
Yeah, the only problem was that was like a suburban neighborhood, like on the sidewalk, and we all know that's absolutely nothing like what the RCC campus looked like. But I guess the whole framing, Drews, was they were trying to get the blood dripping down that cross so they could draw a circle around it and say, the Zodiac Killer. They framed a logo for us.
There are a few problems. There are a few problems other than just the lime green VW.
Yeah, for sure. But I got the same vibe. You know what? I think, Druzer, you're going this way with your PowerPoint, but I felt like they did a little too much with the Sherry Jo Bates because, for one, I mean, maybe it was hotter at the time because, like Druzer was saying, 71, 72, we're fresh off the Zodiac crime, so people are looking at what is 66 Riverside activity, what happened before. But, like, they literally have that quote on the movie poster. I don't know if you saw it, Ned, but I'm sure you saw it, Druzer, like I lay awake at night thinking of my next victim. Like, I felt like they were drawing too much from the Sherry case and not enough from the 4 canonicals that literally just happened right before this film was produced, as Druzer was saying, which maybe be intentional, kind of reference something from 66 and not something so fresh when, you know, the families are still obviously dealing with the tragicness of the crime. So,
yeah, well, this was so early on that although they interviewed Alan right before the Paul Stein murder, Cheney hasn't entered the picture yet when this film was produced.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, early on.
For sure.
But in terms of like getting everything accurate for a movie, there's some very, very subtle things that we will notice that they might notice. Like I said, shooting the male victim at Lake Herman Road while he's sitting in the front seat of the car. And Druzer beat me to this because there was a post that was made on the Nancy Drew channel. Was it yesterday or something? About where they're talking where Paul Stein and David Faraday shot in the exact same way. You remember this, right, Druzer?
Yeah.
And like David Faraday was shot by his left ear, right? And Paul Stein is shot on the right side of the head. But that is maybe not everyone's first instinct. When I first learned about the Zodiac case, we're talking like 2011, hearing about the Lake Herman Road murders, I assumed that David was shot while sitting in the front seat of the car. Then I'm like, oh, well, he was found outside of the car. I was like, oh, well, clearly the Zodiac ordered him out and then shot him on the right side of the head because, you know, maybe he told him to face the road. No, David was shot by the left ear as he was exiting the vehicle, which could have been like he was, I mean, you guys can always, you think he was intercepted, the Zodiac stopped him, maybe the Zodiac confronted him face to face. And used his right hand.
I think they were both up against the car. David's head would be faced towards the back of the car, where Betty Lou would also be against the car, and that's when he shot him because he fell like right back.
Probably, I think that's probably right. I mean, you guys will see the breakdown when episode 5, the Lake Herman Road ambush, drops on my channel. There's also that bruise to the other side of his face. So I thought Zodiac pistol whipped him, turned his head, and then popped him. When, you know what I mean?
I think maybe after the shot, David's face may go against the car, sort of a bang.
Yep, that could be right too.
That
could be right too.
Well,
you know, I would have.
details that like even the filmmakers might not be completely aware of, or they might have been thinking kind of the way that I did, the way that a lot of these other recreations on YouTube do when they have David sitting in the car and he gets shot. One of them even had David crawling away, like this AI generated Lake Herman Road where David's crawling away out of the driver's side door. It's like, no, I mean, that is just
I didn't see that one.
I mean, it's, one of those AI channels that had like 1,000 views or something. So it had just a generic name. It's not like one that's getting 1 million views, but it's just, that is something though that is people might not be thinking about immediately.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hey, Monique. Yeah, so the early articles, Drews, say that David got out the driver's side and then walked around the front of the car. And then it's just that one article that says that. So I don't know if they just got that flat out wrong, because obviously there was no footprints. And then the lead officer says that all 3 doors were locked except the passenger side. So they both had to come out the passenger.
Yeah, I think the problem isn't lack of footprints. It's like, whose footprints are they? I saw one article where they'd found a footprint, but I don't think they put the time in. I don't think they put the time in to actually measure who's like they would have had to take David's shoe, or I don't know. It could have been from anyone. Same with
there's several quotes that the ground was frozen and that's why they didn't get tire tracks. So I don't know where you differentiate like the weight of a car that can't press in the tracks versus like the weight of a guy that's way less than a car. You know what I mean? Is his foot going to make the prints? But yeah, the real problem I had, boys, was just him standing over. Like, I think the reloading thing was like, oh, well, he went back and reloaded at Blue Rock, so let's show him doing it at Lake Herman Road, or we'll say the Reservoir for reference of this movie. But I would have liked if they just used the actual locations or something reminiscently close to it, given that they filmed in the Bay Area, right? They were all Hanson was a Bay Area actor. So, well,
what you have to understand is that they couldn't pay for permission to shoot anywhere. They couldn't get anyone
no licenses
involved. They didn't have lights. They didn't have time. So this is all like improvised choreography, I'm sure.
Sure. And he also wanted to produce it in the time to get the screening downtown to try to get Zodiac to show up while the Zodiac crimes were still relevant. So it's all under the guise of like just trying to have that showing event. Anything else, Ned, or you guys want me to move on?
Just like we were talking about how David, or their version of him, was driving a VW van, and it's like you called it the VW bus, right, Ross? And do you think all of that was done just for practicality, because it would be too expensive to find similar cars, that these were the vehicles they had access to? I mean, that's what I was guessing, but I don't actually know that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Druzer was right, because David's car is like a 62 Rambler, Druzer, so I don't think they had the like capacity to just say, hey, does anybody have this perfect year, perfect color station wagon Rambler that we can,
No, and I think it would have been even more offensive if they had.
Agreed. Agreed. I hear it. All right, boys. Let me just rip through the Act 2 here. So he goes on his major killing spree, murdering the lovers in the park, and then, of course, the Satanism worship, which we all know my theory. The final act of the film attempts to provide a motive for the crime. Zodiac Killer visits his father in the hospital, where he's kept in a cage room on the top floor. It is implied that Zodiac's father is mentally ill and has to be restrained 24/7 and refuses any verbal communication with his son. The Zodiac Killer begs for his father to talk to him, only to be rebuked. The staff of the facility asks the Zodiac Killer to leave, claiming his presence upsets his father. On the way out, Zodiac Killer takes out his anger on 2 patients, wounding one and killing the other. The film ends with a voiceover monologue as the Zodiac Killer goes about his normal routine. The Zodiac Killer brags about how he will never be caught and taunts the viewers of the film, telling them that the other monsters like himself lurk out there, able to blend in with normal people to avoid being caught while doing evil. I just want to say the idea that he targets people that he comes across in his daily life, generally absurd, because it would have been so much easier to pinpoint Zodiac if he went around killing real life acquaintances. Not to say we know either, but I feel like SFPD, VPD, anybody involved, Napa County, anybody involved in the investigation, that's essentially the first thing they look at. Obviously the victims, victimology, who did they know? So I don't know. I know people are like, think it's definitely that, but for me, I lean in the complete opposite direction. Obviously, if Zodiac, look at Ned's channel, BBOR, he talks about the Texarkana Moonlight murders, Jack the Ripper, all these things. He obviously knows serial killers who got away targeted victims at random. You know, that's the best way to hide your track, you know?
Yeah, the police sort of spelled that out for him.
Yeah.
It was the last article that was written about the Lake Herman Road murders. It was late March 1969, where they just said, you know, he has no motive. He's a madman. How can we possibly... We have no leads.
Strikes at random, yeah. 100%.
I hope he doesn't do it again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think he was. I think that's what gave Zodiac his comfort level, is that he couldn't be connected to any of the victims. He didn't work nearby. You know.
Yeah, 100%. How about you, Ned? Reaction?
Well, I would actually like to shift gears a little bit, because there is something though that I just remember from the Lake Herman scene in the 1971 movie, and it's not when the murder took place. It's actually, they had a fictionalized version of Les Lundblad investigating Lake Herman Road and giving comments, or investigating the Reservoir murder. And they're talking about how he was able to shoot Betty Lou in the dark because her body would have been silhouetted against the night sky. But then someone said it wouldn't be possible to shoot a running silhouette, or it would be difficult to shoot a running silhouette. I'm not a firearms person. I'm not a gun person. When I was in the Boy Scouts, I was the worst shot in my troop, no joke. But still, I mean, to shoot at a running silhouette, I don't think that would be impossible. But because we had this window into Jerry's world, he actually used the pencil flashlight on the gun. I mean, do you think the shooting at a running silhouette would be impossible in the way Les Lundblad shared? Druzer shaking his head no?
I think it's misleading, because whether there was a flashlight or not, the first shot hit her within 5 feet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you've already hit them, you can probably hit them again.
Yeah, how far are they going to get? They're not going to be running full speed after they already have one shot. I want to push back on 2 points. I'm glad you mentioned that, Ned. I was going to bring it up as well. You guys probably know by now I'm not a big proponent of the pen light theory. I think it's probably just Zodiac talking out his ass. At Blue Rock Springs, he comes with the handheld flashlight in the other hand. How do we know he just didn't bring that to both canonicals? We have a living witness that actually saw that. So if anything, I would lean towards that. You know, maybe he used the pen light. It doesn't matter to me. I think, was it Grinnell and you guys, Druzer, that came up that there was the article or whatever promo about that similar type light that got posted, I think, a bit prior to Lake Herman Road. So some people were speculating it was that.
What's interesting is that the cheapo Sears pistol that they believe through ballistics was the most compatible weapon had an unusually long barrel. And I'm not a gun guy, but it would have fit. A little pencil light would have fit on top of it, and it wouldn't on most guns.
Yeah, lent itself to the attachment, the form factor. Okay, I mean, I'm fine with that. I still think, sure, it works, but I just haven't seen any, so you guys know I've been there. You guys know I've been there during the day. You guys know I've been there at night. Granted, I was there in July, so I can't speak to luminosity during December 20th, 1968. However, the moonlight was fine. You could see everything when I was there. So as Druzer said, someone being 5 feet next to you, I mean, be kind of embarrassing for you to miss that first shot if you're Zodiac. So I just don't see the need for it. I think the silhouette was fine. I think the running silhouette was hittable, as you were saying, Ned. My biggest pushback is when the actor cops who the stand-ins for Lundblad and the other officer is, well, that was crack shooting. That was, oh my God, I can't believe how good his accuracy. Dude, you're talking about 5 to 10 feet away. If it's 50 feet away at night, sure, that's impressive, but this isn't even close to that. And also, me and Brian Gunner from my series, we go in depth on this in episode 5. Not a single one of those shots on Betty's back is even close to each other. They're all completely dots at random. Yeah. So if you're shooting, you can't even hit 2 or 3 shots in a grouping with a light that supposedly gives you that like target, like directly, like he said, like when you pull the trigger, the shot goes in the middle of the light. Okay, genius. Then how come you couldn't hit 2 or 3 in sequence? You know, like that Zodiac saying that basically dispels the whole argument. Okay, so you had the light and couldn't.
3 points. 1, we do not know that you've been to Lake Herman Road because you won't release the episode. 2,
there's pictures of me there.
if Zodiac planned to kill someone at night, didn't know where, he didn't know he was going to find some kids shivering in a car in some parking lot. He may not have known the circumstances. He may have prepared himself with a flashlight because that was his plan.
Yeah.
And regarding the groupings, I agree. It doesn't seem like remarkable shooting to me, but they did write that in the police reports. I don't think it's silly for someone to say it. I just don't think it really holds true.
I saw it there. I just think it's silly for trained officers to say it, who are trained with firearms that shoot, to look at something that doesn't have a single 2 shots in a grouping. And again, this is a debate for another time. And then they just go, oh, wow, what incredible shooting. And then you never see incredible shooting from Zodiac and the rest of the Zodiac crimes. You definitely don't see it at Blue Rock Springs. He goes the safe route with Stein. You know, and then he doesn't even use a gun at Lake Berryessa. So that's where I sit on it. I tend to push back because a lot of, you guys know I collect firearms. Unlike you two, I am a firearm enthusiast. So most of the internet people that have never fired one for him, it tends to be amateur opinions. Oh my God, Zodiac is a sniper. He's a elite Navy SEAL. He's a Army Ranger. You don't see that in Zodiac shooting in the crimes. You know, that's all I'm saying. But
Ross, I'm not a gun person, but I absolutely am on board with you guys when I say the Zodiac was not a skilled marksman. And I think that most people who get under the surface in this world realize just that how incredibly sloppy he was at both Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs with his shooting. And we even have Monique here in the chat saying he couldn't finish off Mike at Blue Rock Springs with a big flashlight either. Right. That's exactly what these guys are going at. The one thing that I will still testify to is, to the people who say that the pencil flashlight does not work, you know, like aiming at the black dot in the center of the light cone. I mean, I've seen it tested out before. Someone even did like a demonstration for Black Box Online Radio once. Yes, it does work. But was the Zodiac actually doing it? I'm actually a believer that he did. I mean, I kind of like what Druzer said, that he already had the pencil flashlight on his gun. And that was what he was expecting to do. We can keep talking about Lake Herman Road, or we can move on to the next time in the movie if you guys want. What do you think?
We can move on. I just want to interject Grinnell's theory. If he's out there in the hunting area with it already, and he's already out there hunting when he comes back up and sees the car parked there, then yeah, sure. Much like Connolly and Gasser, there's obviously some hunters out there hunting the raccoon. So if Zodiac's one of the hunters out there, sure, he may have already had the stuff on him. Like if he's just driving around, well, okay, sure. Let's say he used it, right? That doesn't explain why his aim's so bad. Then he's obviously drunk, because no sober person is completely shooting in that completely unhinged grouping on Betty's back, unless he's just completely panicked, just trying to get out of there as fast as possible. There's got to be some explanation for the inaccuracy, because he doesn't have any trouble putting it right to David's, neck, So it's like the other person that's right next to him, all of a sudden his aim is just terrible. It just doesn't make sense to me. But
that's the one thing about that, Ross, because maybe panic isn't the word that I would use, but I am somebody who believes that the first crime occurred at Lake Herman Road. I know Druzer will disagree, but we can have moments of hesitation rather than panic. And people do believe this about murderers, even if they have psychopathic tendencies. It wouldn't necessarily be just like, but like they are going to have just this moment of hesitation because they have not committed a crime like this before. Even if you do think that he murdered Sherry Jo Bates, that crime was done by knife, and this one would be shooting. Not good experience, not the same experience. So, I mean, panic, it could be panic. It could just be hesitating, lack of experience. It could be something like that about why he's such a mess at Lake Herman Road, when, as you guys have already said, very close target when she starts running. And at Blue Rock Springs, the victims were confined. They were in the car.
Yeah.
Which is
and he's standing right next to him. Standing right next to him.
Killer of a single killer growing in somewhat awareness. All right, I'm not going to let them get out of the car now. I'm going to blind them with the flashlight. Actually, it would be the handled one, right? And then he's going to just start firing every way possible. And that's
maybe panic is not the right word. Maybe rushed, because if he knows the location so well, which we're presuming he does, he knows that cars are coming by basically every 5 minutes, basically a 5-6 minute window between when he shoots them and gets out of there. So it's like my only, other than not being sober, my only other thing is like maybe has the gun on her, but maybe trying to watch both ways of traffic while shooting, because that's otherwise a car drives by from that right side, the headlights shine directly on you, see your face, and you're holding the gun, clearly shooting someone in the back. So you have to be conscious of that at that location. You would have to.
Yeah. If Owen heard the shot, then obviously he acted almost immediately, and he knew he didn't have too much time. And if he used the pencil flashlight there, it probably didn't work very well, and that's why you got something more powerful for the follow-up.
Yeah, I think the more accurate thing is what he wrote in the letter for Blue Rock, which is, I sprayed them like spraying a firing hose, which that doesn't sound like some American sniper level, elite Halos Hathcock Marine sniper to me. That's more like just a guy with the pistol that's just dumping the rounds. That sounds like more like Zodiac style of shooting, which completely, throws accuracy out the window. Yeah, I just walked up to the car to the people right next to me, you know what I mean, and still struggled.
It's also, I mean, it's such a weak gun that it took several shots. What was it, 5 shots to put her down?
The 22, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
just real quick. Yeah. I mean, it got the job done. Just seemed to be with some struggle. Charlie, no, I don't think so, because as Druzer said, the first shot hits her back within 5 feet. So sure, she's a moving target, but she's already basically limping shot, at that point. Agree with that, Pixie. All right, boys, let's see. So we ripped through the plot. Do you want me to pull up your slides, Drew, so we could get that going?
We've talked about a lot of it already, but
we can cruise through it as well. Let me see if I can get it going. See if
Had you seen it before, Ned?
He watched it a while back. Yeah, 91.
Oh, I guess you had done the earlier episode, so you had seen it. I've been avoiding it for 10 years.
The movie or
the 71 movie.
Yes. I watched the 71 movie in 2019, and I rewatched it last night ahead of this discussion.
Whoa, we're stuck in the Matrix. Okay.
Oh wow, that was actually kind of cool, Ross. I mean, I don't think I've ever gone down.
We're stuck in Infinity. So here's what Drew. You guys can see this.
Yep.
Okay, so here's what Drew's laid out. Here's our poster, and then obviously they make such a big deal of this thing from the Riverside activity letter, the confession letter, the typewriter letter, and then Druzer laid this out. This is where they stole it from, the actual confession letter. I just thought it was so weird how they just went so heavy on that, Druzer, but it might be for the reasons we discussed. So let's see what else we got here, boys. I don't know any Zodiac. The Afro man, is this a Burroughs?
He doesn't look shabbily dressed to me.
Wait a second. We need to talk about some of these things, because as we've said, they altered certain things from the actual timeline. This is actually taking place after Lake Berryessa, right? This is when the guy, the first phone call was actually when he isn't telling the real events of what happened. I shot the kids at Blue Rock Springs, which is called Green Rock Park in the movie. Telling the story. He actually calls in to give them the details that were used in the August 4th Good Times in Vallejo letter. And, it's like talking in his menacing voice, in your response for more about my good times in Vallejo. And what we're looking at here is this is after the Blue Rock. This is after the Lake Berryessa stabbing, and as we all know, the real Zodiac didn't put the receiver back on the phone, right? Like, he didn't hang up after Lake Berryessa, right? He just left it hanging down there.
Yeah.
Could call back,
Put it on
right?
the shelf.
Yeah, okay. Put it on the shelf. So no, but like it's disconnected. So because this is one of the things that I think Vincent McConnell really paid a lot of attention to and he talked about so much is that after Blue Rock Springs, the Zodiac makes his call and he hangs up and then the phone rings, right? After Lake Berryessa, he did not hang up, so nobody could call back. And it shows someone who just has a little bit more awareness. It also shows that we also seem to have one killer who is operating based on everything we've said about Lake Herman Road and the evolving nature to Blue Rock Springs, then the evolving nature to Lake Berryessa. It all seems to fall in line. That
he develops from crime to crime for sure in many
100%.
ways.
Adapts to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
See what Drew's got next. Sear arrives to help contact Zodiac. Joseph DeLuise, a Chicago hairstylist with unusual extrasensory perception, arrived in Vallejo shortly before 2 p.m. Tuesday in the hope his psychic powers will help him make contact with the Zodiac. Okay, I think I heard some of this.
Yeah, I mean, this is their approach. They take little somewhat connected stories throughout and just splice them in.
From the real narrative, yeah. I mean, this is certainly an interesting one. I mean, you hear about this happening with the Yuba County Five and things like that, but never really pans out. The psychics need to step up their skills, apparently. Berserk Man in SF is slain. Okay, are you saying this is... I saw he was holding a little girl against his left side or pressing the saw against her throat. She had already been cut at least once for there was blood on her neck. Okay, so I didn't realize this was based off of a real thing. And it's a Paul Avery article, Druzer.
Yeah, I didn't put the guy's face and name up there, but yeah, the real guy. This was November 1969, I believe. There was sort of
that's very interesting.
The height of the hoaxing.
You're saying the Grover character was more based on this event?
Yep.
Interesting.
But it's so weird. I haven't heard of this one, but it's so weird how similar Grover is to Arthur Lee Allen. And everybody can see Grover on the screen there, where you have this large, bulky, balding man who is like, again, he is somebody whom they would want to vilify for the Zodiac murders. He's even harassing his ex-partner, and that is actually his daughter there that he has with his arm around her from the movie. But I mean, it definitely sounds like it's more based on this article that Druzer has highlighted. But I mean, the combination of both, like we said, put in the fact, fiction, and then the even more creative liberties together.
Yeah, Allen wasn't on anyone's radar when the film was produced.
That they produced it. Yeah, that's also interesting. I mean, we're just kind of saying it's like reminiscent to.
That's true. I mean, like the iconography of a larger Zodiac suspect, sure.
Balding guy. The Bloody Satan murder. Okay. Satan lives. Is this the Robert Salem, where it said, isn't it? Yeah, that Zodiac, it's like the most basically looks akin to the writing of that Margolis painting when they said it said Zodiac, although it didn't. Anyway, sidebar. The Bloody Satan murder. So this is satanic altar, I'm guessing, Druzer, you think is a reference to this Salem. What do we have?
There's no question he cuts off his left ear and takes it with him.
Yeah.
Now this is one thing that's interesting is this is one of few victims in this film that the film doesn't criticize beforehand. He's just a regular guy.
Got you.
Pretty
40-year-old.
About that, I mean, like it starts out with the Zodiac is murdering people who have been mocking him or people who are in his circles. Then this is jumping ahead, but by the end, when they're showing the Zodiac committing murders, he goes off the rails and he's targeting motorists. He's, as we said, he's cutting this man's ear off, and the defenseless guy in a wheelchair, and it's like, I mean, he's just pretty much going berserk, and there are reasons for this in the movie, but there's definitely a more chaotic Zodiac by the end of it.
For sure. The 40-year-old designer of lamps had been repeatedly stabbed with a long-bladed knife. The killer apparently tried to decapitate his victim, and when that failed, cut off Salem's left ear, carrying it away with him when he fled. And did we have the date on this crime, Druzer?
April 19th. It was a few days before they found him, so it's not perfectly clear.
Got you. So gray area timeline. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Handsome dork. They were in a white Chevy.
I mean, he cast a really handsome guy, but he did make him a dork. Gave him a whole clown outfit. I do respect that.
Wait a second. I think that that's very important for the movie outside of the Zodiac story, because what I thought they were trying to do with this film was they were trying to show that the Zodiac could be anybody. And one thing that was emphasized multiple times is that Jerry is the nicest guy in the world. He's non-threatening. Nobody suspects him. And Jerry also gets laid during the movie with somebody who's on his mail route. I believe her name was Mrs. Simpson. They didn't give the first name. And it's like,
really?
he's not even...
Was it really Simpson?
I think so. I had the closed captions on, and that's what... But those
I can't tell you why that's relevant, but interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. He was a murderer. I mean, he got away with it, but they didn't know that at the time. No. I digress. But
does the name Jerry ring a bell for you guys from the police?
Absolutely.
Report? From the Good Citizen card?
I think that something else that Jerry rings a bell. But I'll give you first, Druzer.
Well, I mean, I don't know that Avery would have read the Vallejo police reports, but there is a letter sent in, which we've never seen, referred to as the Good Citizen card, where a guy with psychic abilities says the police might look at 56 Beach Street, which is an address that doesn't exist, and you may talk to someone named Jerry. I'm getting the name Jerry. He may know some people.
Interesting. So you think Hanson pulled that Jerry for the character's name?
I think it's probably a coincidence because it wasn't a published letter, and I don't even know that Avery would have gone through every Vallejo police report. But
Gotcha.
No.
Talk about a Bob Burnett in it. What's that?
That means the psychics were right. They knew what they were doing.
Could be.
Okay, so obviously I love the Zodiac altar. I am the supreme Zodiac, the self-worship. Pretty interesting scene there of him talking to his slaves in paradise, the spirits, and the spirits answering him. That's definitely... he kind of goes on this long spiritual rant about Atlantis and recreating the pyramids, so some esoteric philosophy there, if you will. It was an interesting direction to go. I'll say that.
I think this is one of the most interesting parts of the movie, because what I also think they were going for is they wanted to show the Zodiac at face value, that what he's writing in his letters is what he genuinely believes. Like when he's saying, I want to collect my slaves for paradise, then they wanted to show a killer that actually believed that. During his daily life, he's completely nice and non-threatening, and he helps people, and he is just not bothering anybody. If anything, he's a good citizen in his daily life. He helps a kid out of a tree, even, who gets stuck. But then, when he goes into his basement lair, he is actually believing that he has collected slaves for his afterlife, and he can communicate with them. And like Druzer, now like Ross said, it's it's reminiscent of satanic worship, but also it's just like performing rituals and so on. And they kind of like alluded to the fact that this is a delusion, right? That he's not actually able to do this. I mean, they don't say flat out, oh, it's all in his mind, but that's the vibe I got.
They take several pokes at the idea of psychic abilities throughout the film. I don't think that this was camp.
Yeah, 100%. The self-worship as well, which you do get a flavor of that from Zodiac's letters.
But what they wanted to show was, like, what if the Zodiac actually believed that he could collect slaves for his afterlife in paradise? And, like, if he actually believed that, well, what is he doing during his daily life? What is he doing during his home life? And I remember watching this in 2019 thinking that this was actually kind of a window into that possibility. But even then, 7 years ago, and even now today, I still don't believe any of it actually happened, or it's true, or the Zodiac believed any of that stuff. That was called trolling before the internet. That's called being a jerk, being arrogant. You allowed my slaves. No, they won't. Jerk, stop killing people. Check yourself into a facility.
It was hardly even persona building because he kept repeating it, but he didn't really invest in it. He didn't start drawing astrological symbols or discussing whatever the hell afterlife slaves could possibly
practices. He didn't add any context.
He was
Absolutely, Druzer, that's a brilliant observation, because the Zodiac isn't really giving us details about the life in paradise or what it feels like to collect the slaves. What does he do after he says all that stuff in 69? In 1970, he's more like, hey, can you wear some Zodiac buttons and pay attention to me? I'm still here.
Completely switches gears. Can I please have some attention now? Because you guys forgot about me after the Manson crimes. We do see Jerry crack on that lady in the beginning that yells at him about the mail route. And he's like, stop picking on me. You know, it does show that he has that temper. So he does start to crack fairly early on, for what that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one, Ross. But like, at the same time, it sounded like Jerry was following the rules, and that person was in the wrong. And you know, it's like he's it's showing that he's dealing with a lot of kind of mental anguish. But you know, at the same time, he also didn't like try to just murder her there. If anything, it seems like he was channeling his his anguish into the crimes that were committed by the Zodiac.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So what do you got here, Druzer? Hanson criticizes each victim before they're attacked.
Yeah, he takes a shot at every one of them right before they're murdered.
Yeah.
I just noted that.
Bad taste, if you will.
Yeah, I go through them in the next slides.
Okay, nice. I got
I
you.
would like to do this, yes.
David's disrespectful. Yeah, so honking the horn, I noticed this scene. I'm like, obviously David went in and met her parents that night. So I really didn't know where this was going. This confused me as well as the VW bug, but seems like it threw you off a little bit as well, Druzer.
It's just a weird choice.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I thought too.
You'll see that in films with good guys and television shows. You know, they'll give you something crappy about the character so that you don't mourn their loss.
Yeah. But for actual real people, let's see. Mike is a deadbeat. Okay, I wanted to talk about this. First of all, these people were way older than Mike and Darlene, like you guys were saying about the first canonical. But second of all, dude, that shot of Green Rock Springs was like 10 seconds long. It was even more confusing than the first one. You know what I mean? I just didn't know what to make of it. He's talking about how he got her pregnant and she was sleeping around, so it kind of tries to disrespect them both in a sense, Druzer.
Yeah.
Like,
well, there's a couple of things about this one because, again, it's a blend of the real story with these absolutely untrue things. And Mike, as we see here, is an Asian American, which I was wondering was, like based on George Waters, who was a Filipino American, the man who was harassing Arlene Ferrin. And did you guys catch that Mike's girlfriend in the movie is actually named Marlene, not Darlene? And that's his girlfriend. She's not seen on screen.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had a shot, but it's the lighting was so low that you could barely make it out, so I didn't include it. That's actually Tom Hanson in the role. He
played the Majo Mayhew stand-in. Brian is a cheater. I heard you were out with Cindy Saturday night. I mean, so this is somewhat. I don't know if I would call him a cheater. I'm not going to take any shots at him, Druzer, but this is somewhat grounded in fact, if you will.
True.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, he had a girlfriend at the time when he was with Cecilia. So
now, Druzer, is this how it goes down? It's like Brian and Cecilia are what we called old flames, right? Like they had been involved previously together, right? And then Brian had a girlfriend, and then he goes to Lake Berryessa with Cecilia, and he is cheating on her. And it's nothing like about Mike and Darlene, where it's kind of questionable what were they actually doing. No, they went there for intimacy, right?
Well, I mean, he had a box of condoms with him, but we don't know what actually happened. There's no reason to believe that they were unclothed when
or that the
attack
condoms were
occurred.
used. Yeah.
Not like that, but like I mean that's kind of what Brian's intention was, is that he is spending the day with Cecilia, and his girlfriend didn't know about it, right? Because he says in his interview when he's in the hospital that he needs to call his girlfriend and give her his side of the story more or less.
Yeah, notify her. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want to react to that, Chooser?
No.
Okay. In Brian's defense, like in the what's that? This is the Zodiac speaking original documentary on Ned, not confused with the piece of crap Netflix one. He says that like had things gone differently, that he might have ended up marrying Cecilia. So I do want to just
where's that from?
I believe it's the first documentary from the Zodiac Fincher, the documentary on the disc.
I don't remember him saying that.
He definitely said that in one of the.
That he might have married Cecilia.
Yeah. He said like if things turned out differently, that he could have ended up, spending the rest of his life with her. He did say that later on down the line. It's like years later, man. Like
there's a made up interview on the internet where he says that, but
okay,
that's false.
Okay, I gotcha. Let's move on. Both are oblivious. I thought Halloween only came once a year. Maybe he forgot to take off his costume. Now he's coming towards us. I mean,
they didn't notice him until he was 5 feet away.
No, you guys in the chat, you have to watch this movie because as Druzer has given us here, we have this slide of the Zodiac in full Lake Berryessa garb walking, and they're like, I thought Halloween only came once a year. Yeah, you see this jelly figure walking in the costume, and they're like, whatever. Yeah,
Oh my God! Here he is. He's on top of us, and also it's a month before Halloween. By the way, guys, I have the full screen PowerPoint, so if anyone says anything in the chat that we need to react to, just let me know.
No, that was absolutely just kind of I don't know if you'd call it a sloppy scene, but just purely unrealistic about how you would expect two people to respond to seeing somebody in that costume walk up on them with multiple weapons. And they're just like, Halloween.
I would expect a lot better from a Lake Berryessa scene from Bay Area filmmakers, even with no budget, Druzer, because obviously the Fincher scene is maybe the most iconic true crime scene ever in a movie. You know what I mean? So it's like this one really leaves something to be desired when compared to Fincher, but we're going to try not to do that here, comparing budget to no budget.
I judge a lot of film competitions from elementary school kids.
Yep, they do way better.
And some college kids. This film is somewhere in between those two.
Hopefully closer to the college level than the elementary level. So is this a shot at Stein? Hey, here you go, Ted. Big tippers always sit up front. So he's going with the Zodiac sat up front theory.
Go to the next line. Or the next slide.
Paul is homophobic. With my luck, it's some out-of-town bad word, getting lonely. Yeah, this bad word is used a couple times in this film. I have it in my notes earlier on with the Grover line, talking to, I think, Jerry it was. It's a 70s grindhouse film. Sorry, guys. There's some other F words.
No, but he's not trying to get people's sympathy with putting that stuff in there.
Oh, yeah, agreed. No, I think you're right on. I totally forgot. I remembered it happened earlier in the movie. I totally forgot it came up again. Kathleen is a flake. Do you believe in ESP? I once read 5-digit numbers on a man's forehead. Well, I mean, there's this Kathleen is a flake narrative kind of already out there, Druzer. Would you say that?
Oh, yeah. I'm not trying to make a big point with this list.
Yeah, it's just what Hanson pulled from and what he didn't, basically, right? Yeah,
it's a choice.
But now, wait a second, though, because this is Kathleen Johns. I mean, obviously, that she doesn't look like Kathleen Johns, but what they did was they
like an old lady.
The Kathleen Johns incident, and they split it up into different segments with different victims. And as I said, the Zodiac goes somewhat chaotic by the end of the movie, and he's attacking different motorists, multiple women who are in their cars. Yeah. And the Kathleen Johns incident was featured in segments. Like a little bit of Kathleen Johns' story is with this woman right here. Then a different motorist is the one who's able to run away and escape from the Zodiac. And I don't think she escapes purely in the film, but it's like they really wanted to combine just elements of Kathleen Johns with maybe 3 different victims in a 71 movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll just bring up the same point I said about Fincher, which is like Graysmith including the Kathleen's John chapter. Although I guess this film is before Graysmith came out, Yellow Cover came out, Druzer. So it's kind of interesting that he kind of included the Kathleen Johns references in here. Obviously, Fincher kept them in the film, and obviously Graysmith had that chapter in its book. But like most of us nowadays really don't put much stock in the Kathleen Johns. Like for me, I can just forget it totally and just focus on the actual Zodiac crimes. Like sure, it's a nice to have if you think there's any Zodiac reference, but I'm not sure there's enough for me to say like I'm really invested in the Johns story to say like, okay, I think this is definitely Zodiac or not. You know, I'm just I'm not that attached to it, to be honest with you.
I think it wasn't, but a lot of and there's some pretty solid reasons to believe it didn't occur. Mm-hmm. But she was a nice lady. I think she was honest, and you know, her talking to Howard sways me a little bit. I'm not sure.
For sure. Yeah, I like the Howard stuff. Go ahead, Ned.
Druzer, what did you mean when you said you don't think the incident happened, but you think that she was honest? What do you mean by that?
I don't think that she was picked up by someone who wanted to kill her, and I don't think that person was Zodiac.
But you think she was honest?
Well, either she was driven around in circles, or it wasn't a 2-hour affair. Mm-hmm. And because Zodiac repeated the couple of hours, that makes it seem like he just read about it in the newspaper and regurgitated it. Absolutely. But maybe he did drive her in circles, and it did take 2 hours. I don't know.
The first time Kathleen says it, Druzer, doesn't she say like the guy was polite to me, and it's not as threatening of an encounter the way she first describes it.
Yeah, and I think there's some fair criticism that should probably be thrown at the original police who interviewed her.
I agree.
So it's a gray area. The hubcap wasn't found away from the car. There's another detail. She talks about him taking her keys, but then she later told Howard Davis that she didn't have car keys, that she in fact had to like hotwire it to start it. And it's hard not to extrapolate from car that needs to be hotwired to start to it mysteriously engulfing in flames.
For sure.
Well, okay, now, Druzer, I mean, this is something that is important because Howard Davis interviewed Kathleen Johns, and one of his biggest points was that he didn't believe that Kathleen Johns was making up the story because people were accusing her of doing it for insurance fraud. But then
have insurance.
Yeah, she didn't have insurance.
Yeah, that's why I tend to believe that she was being honest when she relayed her stories. I mean, that doesn't mean it was Zodiac, of course.
So what it sounds like people are saying is like it's that she was very poor. She had one kid. She was 8 months pregnant at the time, and then her car catches on fire. Oh no, this is the last straw. I gotta do something, because if her car just caught aflames and she couldn't get a new one, she's mostly stranded. So she put the story in line. And, the Zodiac wasn't involved. The abduction wasn't involved. It was about getting sympathy, maybe about getting some type of payoff later on, but mostly just about sympathy, attention, assistance, all of those things. What do you think about that?
Could be. I've never met the woman. I don't know whether she was lonely or not.
I would push back and just say, well, the loneliness thing, I don't think so, because when she goes to make the statement, doesn't she have one of her new boyfriend with her? And then the cop says, like, I feel like she was trying to get attention from her boyfriend. So
yes, I wanted to say I didn't mean she was lonely. I meant that she was poor. And
then also, like, how do you monetize this? Like in the 70s, like going around and telling this journalists don't pay you for stories, so you're not going to get paid for the news. I'm just
I don't think she did any interviews till the 90s at the early.
Exactly.
How do you monetize it? Cozying up to men, getting men to buy. Yeah. But yes, Rob's completely right. Kathleen Johns did have a boyfriend at the time, and that is one of the biggest alternatives to the Kathleen Johns incident that has been presented to me, is just that people think she was trying to get sympathy out of her boyfriend. And if you can't afford a new car, your car just caught on fire, you're 8 months pregnant, and so on. I mean, he would be the guy that you would want all the sympathy out of. How do you monetize that? Well, getting sympathy out of your boyfriend first, and if not him, then maybe some other old man who doesn't have anyone to talk to. But I want to reinforce that I don't believe that Kathleen Johns herself was lonely. No. She's going to visit her family. She already has her daughter with her. She had a boyfriend. No, I think she would have wanted sympathy, and then as a product of the sympathy, money. Either that, or I'm completely wrong and she was telling the truth the whole time. Sorry, Kathleen, for all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say, like, my argument was, like, monetize it from the public, right? Like, it's difficult to do back then. It's not nowadays where you take donations on PayPal, you know?
She could have written a book.
No, like, I mean, right? I agree completely, Ross. It would have been very difficult to monetize it from the public. I mean, you do an interview or something like that. Are they even going to pay you something? Like, I don't even know what that would be like.
Place.
Yeah, journalists don't pay. I know that. So consultants, William J. Curdy, MA Clinical Psychology. I hope he doesn't fall. Say thank you. I don't like him. Yeah, I remember this kid gets a bad vibe from the creep.
I love that part. I don't know. I'm not trying to make a point here.
just a highlight. Well, we're good with it. Okay,
that one was like 1 second. What that one was trying to do, that previous slide, was trying to show that the kid has some very, very sharp instincts. And even though the person just helped him out of a tree and was being non-threatening, the kid could sense it. The kid could realize that he's a killer.
Yeah. Just like this lady's partner at the campfire. He's sort of the only guy who seems at all worried.
Yeah, exactly. He's the only one that gets a weird vibe of this guy that has a bag full of disguises at the beach.
Right. That's what I was saying. He has a bag full of disguises. Huh. That's kind of odd.
That's a red flag. Yeah, I like Ned's idea that this was like Gaviota influence, although I don't know how hot this would have been in people's minds. Well, I guess right around that time, Sheriff Carpenter makes that article, right, Druzer, that he was down in the area near Gaviota, and it's referring to Allen being at a Tascadero. So I guess this might have been in the zeitgeist.
That was the following year, but they had drawn potential connections beforehand.
So and again, Hanson really being in Bay Area, other than unless Avery was looking into this, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure how hot they would have been on the SoCal connections outside of Riverside. What would you like to hear? Hey, do you know the song about Laredo? As I walked out on the streets of Laredo, no, I like the part about the guy that got shot, because that's not a creepy statement to make to a couple in the dark on the beach.
Yeah. Next slide.
That was so lame, by the way.
Oh, that's the end of it. Yeah, and I'm shot in the breast, and I know I must die. And
I just love his smile.
Weird, creepy smile. What is this guy doing? What is this guy doing, man?
Horrible.
Oh,
I didn't
know that. Last slide?
It's so like obvious. It's so.
Yeah, that was our last one. That's classic, boys. Love it. Nice job, Drews. Appreciate the slides.
Yes, thank you.
Very informative. Yes.
Yeah, no, that really was
analysis.
Life-changing. Do you guys want me to rip through the production and release, and then I could go through a couple of my notes, and then we can finally get to this story about catching the Zodiac? Let me just try to catch up on the comments real quick. Did you guys see anything in here that was of note?
I can't actually see the chat.
Let's see. There's the pen light crap. The groupings is trash. Anybody ever done a full body sketch of the Zodiac? The neck up photo just makes him look like a skinny nerd. I don't know. I mean, only full bodies.
The same sketch artist out of San Francisco did one of the Larry Lake Berryessa costume.
Yeah,
full body.
And of course.
Yeah, one. Yes, right. Like it's Druzer, do you mean the full body hooded sketch from Lake Berryessa?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was the same artist.
Yeah, there's two of those. There's him without the mouth cut, right? The mouth opening, and then there's Gray Smith's concept art, if you will. Because I think there's.
I'm not talking about the lurker. The
hood. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
and
points.
the important thing about that sketch is there's also scrawled notes, which are presumably Brian's observations. He was out of the hospital at the time of its creation.
Interesting. Super interesting.
But
Go ahead.
definitely lots of AI composites of the full figure Zodiac. I shared some in the group, the Zodiac Killer Library, and I completely agree with the person in the chat who said that when you look at the Presidio Heights composite, it looks like a very thin man. At the very least, that person has somewhat of a thin face. I mean, he has the wide cheekbones, and then the jaw comes down in a little bit of a point, not purely pointed. Whereas the description of the Zodiac is that he has a very big face, and that well, actually, the descriptions are kind of all over the map, to be honest. That's one of the big problems. But they think that the Zodiac is bulky and barrel-chested, and I just want to say, number one, it is possible for somebody to have that face shape and then have a big, bulky body, barrel-chested, fat, all of that. I mean, we've all known somebody like that, I'm sure, at one time or another. The other thing is, maybe all the people who say that the Zodiac needs to have a bigger moon face are actually right. What do you guys think?
The only one who said that was Mike Michaud, and I'm not saying that we should forget about it, but I think it's just a fact of nature. Like, you can tell that I'm a thin guy, but as soon as I hit like 35, I know, I got a big stomach. It's just I still have a thin face, but my profile, boys, it ain't like it used to be. I'm not going to demonstrate, but things happen.
We'll use our imaginations. We'll get the AI comp of Druzer, and that should fix everything.
No, I completely agree. Like, there's just one final thing, and that's that when I was 23 years old, I weighed 145 pounds. When I was 33 years old, I weighed 210 pounds. And, like, when they talk about the Zodiac's weight estimated at 200 to 25, but, still, like, with that face shape, I mean, I really think that a very simple explanation could be what Druzer was talking about. We're dealing with some guy, 30 plus, maybe between the ages of 30 to 39, who, has just grown up a little bit. It happened to us. It happened to him at some point, unless, unless your suspect is McDuff, and he was always big, but...
So here's what I would draw for those points to that response is in 1990, Bowart, who a lot of people say was coaching Michaud through the explanation. He points out Allen and said he had a round face like that guy. A lot of people point to that and say Michael says that the guy who shot him at BRS was that guy, Allen, but he said he had a round face like that guy. He didn't say it was that guy. And then also, correct me if I'm wrong, Druzer, Falk says that Kane was the closest structural facial match that he saw. Kane really doesn't look like Allen in the face, shape-wise. Just putting that out there.
Fuck Ballard. He's a goddamn liar.
Holy crap. Bomb. Shots fired by Druzer. Wasn't expecting
It's
that.
True. His report is fucking bullshit.
Hey, I'll co-sign whatever Druzer says here. So I don't know where you're going with Arliss Perry, Pixie. Pop me off on where you're taking that. Don't care about that. And reasons. I'm not sure what this is a reference to.
It was a Kathleen Jones incident, but we went through the reasons why we think that it didn't occur or wasn't.
Reasons. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So let me just do in interviews in 2012 and 2017, Hanson revealed the film's production was part of an elaborate plot to catch the Zodiac, who reasoned Hanson would not be able to resist the film's premiere. On April 7, 1971, the movie opened at SFRKO Golden Gate Theater and featured a contest to win a motorcycle donated by Kawasaki. Moviegoers entering the theater were given cards printed, "I think the Zodiac kills because," invited to complete the phrase and drop their entries into a large box. Inside the box, a volunteer read each entry as it slipped through the slot and compared the handwriting on cards to samples of the Zodiac's handwriting. If the volunteer spotted a suspicious card, plainclothes police officers would be notified to apprehend and interrogate anyone claiming to be the Zodiac whose handwriting was similar to the Zodiac. So we'll have to unpack that. So they had the plainclothes officers there, Druzer. So I was wondering if they had the law enforcement buy-in on the plan. It appears that they did somewhat. So you guys you're familiar with the rest of this story, Ned. The guy who's in the card box passes out because there's no oxygen. Apparently a note comes in that said, "I was here," that supposedly resembled the Zodiac's handwriting. I wonder if they still have that in evidence.
They don't. They stole it. They stole my card. They stole everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never seen a copy of that, but yes, like, they wanted to have the guy in the box get the Zodiac's handwriting. I've never seen a copy or an image of the one that you're questioning.
Yeah. So the plan doesn't go off as hitched. I guess I'll pick it up at the bathroom incident, which Graysmith covers in yellow cover. Now, I talked to Tom Voigt about this, Ned, Druzer. He told me that Graysmith added the part about the guy going to the bathroom and jacking off for no reason. That was just Graysmithing, Ned, if you're familiar with the reference. Not a conversation I want to talk about with two male friends of mine here, but that's what Graysmith wrote, so we're going to cover it. But I think Hanson goes to the bathroom and the guy looks at him at the urinals and said, "That's not how real blood flows. That's not what real blood looks like."
Yeah.
And so
only a true killer would know that film did not realistically depict the way blood.
Yeah. The special effects were severely lacking in this film. So that this guy was really thinking it was going to be a Fincher level production. So as I read the story, and we can talk about that other YouTube Treehouse detective who did the in-depth, Hanson and his goons basically push this guy into a side office and try to hold him in a citizen's arrest, so to speak. And then eventually they question him. Druzer, they let him go because they have nothing on him, essentially. And then is this the guy that Hanson spends years investigating, essentially harassing?
Yeah, and it was weird. It seems like Hanson's team sort of chickened out as soon as they got him in there. And
they didn't know what to do.
Hanson
they didn't have a plan.
What are you talking about? You just let him go?
Yeah, I know. You think that's Zodiac and you got him cornered in a room? Also, I don't know. No, I don't. Okay, did Zodiac come to the screening and did his handwriting match, and did he put the letter in the slot? That I'm not so willing to shoot down, because he could have just dropped it in there and walked out the door and not even went to the movie. Now, as far as the guy that they apprehended being Zodiac, well, I find it hard to believe that Zodiac wouldn't have went in there with 2 or 4 pistols on him and just shot his way out if he had to. I mean, it's 1971. There's no cameras on the street. You know what I mean? As long as, it would have been, he could have got out of there if he had
Zodiac
to.
was reckless, but I don't think he was that reckless. Not quite that reckless.
I want to weigh in on that, because did the Zodiac Killer attend the screening? Entirely possible. That's something that he would do. He's very vain. He's full of himself. Did he write anything on a card to put into the box? I have doubts about that, because as Druzer said, the Zodiac didn't seem like he was so reckless that he would do something sloppy enough to get caught, with the exception of the Stein murder. And there are a couple reasons for that. But the Zodiac really is not putting himself in situations where anything can be traced back to him, practically speaking. The Zodiac is actually covering his tracks in a reasonable amount of way. And if he's just going to write something there with his undisguised handwriting, I mean...
So he'd take the risk. Yeah. He would take the risk to touch the paper with no gloves, meaning he might have had the prints on the card. Maybe he was trying to win the Kawasaki. Who knows? But as you guys said, is he going to put himself in the position where he gets cornered in a building by himself that he can't get out of? Like, it doesn't seem to make any sense for someone that just got away with 4 canonical crimes. Even though Stein was a close call, as you said, Ned, I don't know if he was... It seemed like his risk was declining after Stein, because it was pretty close. I mean, they were right on his tail around that block, so,
Yeah, firstly, I would like to say hi to Walter, longtime follower of the Black Box Online Radio from way back in the day. Hi, Walter, who's here in the chat.
Walter?
And secondarily, some people believe that the Zodiac had given up during the Stein murder, that he actually wanted to get caught, and that's why he's doing this so blatantly and openly. Excuse me. But then he's just walking down the street. He got away with it, and he's like, all right, that's my cue to keep on going. I don't really believe that theory that much, because if he wanted to get caught, he could have done such a better job. How about just stay at the damn taxi? It's like,
Yeah.
You know,
I
but
don't think he
no.
wanted to get caught, but I think it was basically there was that potential at every one of the crimes. He
just wanted to take a higher risk maybe downtown, but not necessarily get caught, just put himself in a maybe urban environment. But I want to go back to your comment, Druzer, which we talked about offline, which, okay, so Zodiac, he tells us he's a badass in these letters. He tells us he's a badass in these phone calls, but unless you want to include Ratatich, he never really shoots an armed person. He never really shoots anybody that could shoot back other than attacking these young teenage boy-girl couples that he just ambushes out of nowhere. They don't even see him coming. Stein aside, just taking the Stein argument out of the picture. If he wants to raise his stature to the next level and he wants to take risk, or if you want to take it further and say he wants to get caught, Tom Hanson did 2 radio promotions before this film came out, talking about the screening of the film. Me and Druzer was asking me if Tom got up before the screening and said, "Hi, I'm Tom Hanson. I'm the director." And then in that case, everybody in the theater would have seen your face. So in that case, if Zodiac is sitting in the back in the shadows, he just waits for Tom to go to the bathroom. Zodiac can walk up at the urinal and shoot Hanson in the back, and he won't even see his face. You know what I mean? But the radio promotion appearances announced where Tom Hanson was staying at his hotel. Did you know this, Ned?
I did not.
Publicly. So if you're Zodiac and you're always trying to write the Times and the Chronicle and you're always trying to get front page, or if you're even trying to get caught and end the Zodiac crimes and get your face on the front page like, Berkowitz, and get your notoriety, the way to go is you just go to Tom Hanson's hotel and you just shoot him. Hey, this is the director of the guy that made the movie about me. If you want to get the big headline, you go and shoot the guy that made the movie about you, furthermore, made the movie about you to try to catch you. Hey, this guy was trying to catch me, I shot him. But, Avery was writing about Zodiac the whole time. Zodiac never walks up to Avery on the street and shoots him. It's the same kind of argument, you know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't go after, or Toski. You think he doesn't know what Toski's face looks like? Toski's working downtown every day. You wait for him to get in his car and you go shoot. Even if you don't even shoot him, you get in a shootout with Toski at the station or on the sidewalk, that's a major headline. You know what I mean? You're not going to get bigger news than that.
Wait a second, Ross, though. There are a couple reasons why that may not have taken place. Some people believe that the Zodiac just gave up on killing after October 11th of 1969, that he had maybe reached a point in his serial killer journey where he no longer felt the need to kill, because Richard Grinnell talks about this all the time. He had already captivated the Bay Area's interest, so he can focus on letter writing. And he wouldn't even have to write the letter for the box at the movie premiere because everybody knows who he is. I mean, the movie's named after his persona. So it's like he has this attention. He has the command. So by killing, Tom Hanson, that would expose him. Oh, the Zodiac's still killing again. And the Zodiac, as we've all kind of agreed upon, wants to not consciously get caught. And, I mean, it sounds quite shocking that he would just stop after the Stein murder for those reasons. But I just don't see sufficient evidence that he was ever planning to truly kill again after Stein.
I think there's a difference between killing people and then telling the police what you did, where you did it, when you did it.
I think
he may have still killed people, but clearly he.
Unclaimed cold cases. Yeah.
After the 340 was solved, it seemed pretty clear that the Zodiac killing people portion had ended. He'd planned to do that, and until they figured out his code, he was just going to continue prodding them, telling them that he was still killing people.
Right. But what did he say in the 340, Druzer? I now have enough slaves to work for me. Yep. I now have enough. And some people just think that that's it. That means that he is not actually going to kill again. He may have, left a window into his world. I was talking about this on the last Zodiac Monday, when sometimes there could be one idea from his real life and real thought processes that comes into the persona, and that could be a window into what the Zodiac was actually thinking. That might be it.
Doesn't Grinnell and Davis talk about this all the time, of the contradictions of when he does so you guys will try to stop my collecting of slaves. I will disguise them as suicides and accidents and other, Davis always hit that. So that pretty much negates the I'm done collecting slaves. Now he says, I'm just going to cover it up. But isn't the inference that if Tom Hanson goes on the radio twice, says we're having a screening downtown, we made this movie about the Zodiac Killer, obviously it seems like the Kawasaki giveaway is some kind of ruse, that if the radio promotes the hotel Tom Hanson's staying at, now I sent you the video, Druzer, Tom Hanson was carrying a .38 automatic, much like Paul Avery got his license to carry. Graysmith apparently never got one, which always confused me if you think that you're that hot on the Zodiac's tail. But isn't the inference that if Tom Hanson gets shot on the sidewalk outside his hotel, obviously it was Zodiac who shot him, if it goes unclaimed cold case, because he's the one promoting I made this movie to catch Zodiac, So even if they don't see his face, he walks away, there's no witnesses, the dude making the movie got shot on the sidewalk at his hotel. It seems like the one enemy he would have had is Zodiac,
Well, one thing we don't know is how successful the actual publicity for this screening was.
True.
I mean, they had no
True.
budget
If it peaked
for
Zodiac's
anything.
radar. Yeah.
So it's very possible that Zodiac had no idea that it had occurred.
If he lived outside of downtown, maybe.
Had Hanson been gunned down in the street shortly thereafter, I would consider that.
Right. Yeah, that's my whole point. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Ned.
There's one thing, though, where I need to back on, and that's kind of what Monique is saying here in the chat. He told us one thing in the letter and a different thing in the code. Yeah. I wouldn't view his thing about saying I will now disguise my crimes as routine robberies and accidents. I wouldn't view that as a negation necessarily. What I was talking about is that imagine somebody is lying to you, but one time they slip up and they give you the truth, and then they start lying to you again. Like they're telling a wild story, but one part of it is true, even by accident. And that's what that line in the 340 could be. I now have enough slaves to work for me. He just used that phrasing, probably wasn't thinking too closely about it, but he was genuinely expressing what he was doing. And I also want to be clear that even though I think Stein was the final victim, I'm absolutely open to other possibilities. Over the years, I've thought much more highly of Donna Lass being a Zodiac Killer victim, going from probably not to, I'll give that some strong consideration. I'm like that with all of the unconfirmed crimes. The more time I look at them, the higher they go up in my book.
Yeah, so I would go with this Berryessa reference from Monique, the Rayfields being armed and the guy totally turning his back and running in the opposite direction up the hill. My conversation with Cole was interesting because he's super high on Raditich being Z, and I'm not so sure because we've never seen Z go at anyone that even had a chance of defending themselves. That's what I'm talking about. Tom Hanson, personal carrying. Paul Avery, correct me if I'm wrong, Druzer, but Paul's license to carry was publicized in the paper, wasn't it? He's like, hey, I got my permit and da-da-da. Now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, now Zodiac knows that guy's carrying. He obviously knows Tosky and Armstrong are carrying because they're police officer inspectors. So I just never see Zodiac take that risk of going at someone who can defend themselves. He knows it's possible. Even if he shoots them on the sidewalk with their back turned and it's not a kill shot, they're going to turn around and draw on you and it's going to be a shootout. You know what I mean? So it's going to go way different than anything Zodiac ever did,
Yeah, if he's intimidated by a 16-year-old with a BB gun.
Exactly.
Coward has never seemed like it's satisfying to call him a coward. I'm not sure coward is quite the right word because of all of the brazen risks he took.
Yeah.
But obviously he was not interested in a fair fight.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. He always tells us like, oh, I'm the biggest menace and, I'm the craziest boogeyman. And it's like, there's regular like purse snatchers that are on the street getting in shootouts with cops, bank robbers, whoever, that are not even necessarily doing violent crimes, but may necessarily be armed. And it just ends up in a shootout with police. That's an age-old headline we've all sseen forever. Zodiac never gets there. He's like, oh, there's a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old Boy Scout on a date. I pull up to the car and start shooting him. Like, that's it. That's why I have a hard time buying Raditich, because maybe he would have took the risk of an armed officer sitting in his car, but probably not. You know what I mean? Especially when he runs away from the Rayfields, it just strikes me as he doesn't want any piece of anyone that's going to mess up the plan. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he was scared when Brian Hartnell stood up. You know,
I like Michael Cole's stuff, but there's very close to zero reason to suspect Raditich was one of his victims.
Well, now, Druzer, the reason why Michael Cole believes that Raditich was a Zodiac victim is Michael Cole looks heavily at the solstices and the equinoxes, and he thinks that the killer was trying to commit the crimes close to these solstices and equinoxes. And Richard Raditich would have been the summer solstice, right? So, like, it's like, I mean, that's a hypothesis. I mean, you can't. I don't even know if we call that a theory. That's a hypothesis, not as widely discussed as a theory. I totally follow Michael Cole's train of thought, but like everything, like all of these hypotheses, they're close, but no cigar, because the Zodiac doesn't always commit crimes closely to the solstice and the equinox, right? Look at Lake Herman Road. That is right there, December 20th, right? Well, then July 4th, 1969? It's not really on the solstice or the equinox now, is it? I mean, it doesn't fit like a glove.
And Gaviota is what, June 4th? So I mean, I guess that July 4th, July 5th, that could be a June 4th reference. If you're throwing it in there, I know.
Now I'm reaching. Working on, like, you know, almost like a dial that you can kind of turn back. Yeah. I talked a lot about that in 2020 in my old black box recordings, about how it's almost like it's kind of just like 2 months off from, you know, someone's birthday, because I used to actually really think highly of Hal Snook as a Zodiac suspect, and he was born on April 21st, if I recall, and it's like, it's almost, you know, just a couple months off here, there, and, you know, doesn't line up purely with equinoxes, but the 21st is something. A lot changes in 6 years, though.
Well, me and you discussed this, Ned, when we talked about the Ripper connection. You know, the what is that? The October of Fear, or whatever that's called. The whole
Autumn of Terror.
Autumn of Terror, and then Zodiac kind of has his own season, which is like, you know, summer into autumn. You know, so it's kind of like him trying to connect his own Zodiac season, so to speak.
All of the Zodiac crimes occurred in the summer and in autumn, because December 20th is before the winter solstice. So it's like Jack the Ripper's crimes were in the summer and in the fall. The Zodiac's crimes were in the summer and the fall. Then the Phantom Killer is only in the winter and the spring.
I was going to say that. So Zodiac's between Phantom and Ripper, you know what I mean? So him trying to claim his own territory.
Except for Lake Herman Road. I mean, like seasonally, yes, but like December 20th would be in the middle of the Ripper crimes and the Phantom Killer crimes.
But in his mind, that's connecting them. You see what I'm saying? So
yes,
like trying to fill in his own gap, but overlapping in
all four sections of the Zodiac circle. Yes. You know, it's like he's got the Phantom Killer, he's got Jack the Ripper. I'm going to be the one who's going to outdo them all. I'm completing the cycle. Oh, yes. I mean, that would have been my absolute go-to theory a couple years ago. But here to everybody in the chat who's listening right now, one problem with these types of theories is, even if it makes sense to you, and even if it makes sense to the person writing the book, how do we know that that's actually what the Zodiac was thinking?
Yeah, because without corroboration. Yeah.
I found so many clues, like, you know, when you do 12/20/68, the date of Lake Herman Road, December 20th, 1968, 12/20/68, that totals up to 100. Oh my gosh, what have I discovered? But, I mean, now I'm just kind of like, is that just a mathematical coincidence? And that's what happens, like, when you can keep, when you stay open to new possibilities, because you recognize that a lot of these things are just that, possibilities. And even though I want to say that my observations were correct, I don't know if that's what the Zodiac intended when he was committing these crimes. And unfortunately, I really stepped down from a lot of the Jack the Ripper stuff that I talked about on Ross's show, because I had to admit that I was faced with contradictory evidence.
Well, I think it just only goes so far. Like, I would be very surprised if Zodiac wasn't well aware of Jack the Ripper, and I'm sure it did inspire him to write and taunt the authorities. It just may have ended there. I don't know that
Yeah, it's
care
about
the dates, even though there are a couple ones worth looking at.
Yeah, how much influence it is or isn't. It's difficult to determine.
Well, that's exactly it, Druzer. Like, I mean, I still think the Zodiac was inspired by Jack the Ripper. I think he knew about Jack the Ripper. But when I was on Ross's show, I was sharing what I genuinely believe that the Zodiac committed the December 20th, 1968 murder, because there's a possible Ripper crime on December 20th of 1888, the murder of Rose Milet. And I was like, he had that date in the back of his mind, and then he put it into action. And then I'm just like, I really stepped down from that. What's that?
Well, my biggest problem with too much preparation thing is I don't see how he could have known that he would find an opportunity to kill someone in the dead of winter. Like he probably had it in his mind that he was probably prepared, had his gun in his car, and if he has an opportunity with a desolate road, he may well have known that Lake Herman Road doesn't have any street lights, and that would be perfect. But he couldn't have known that there was going to be an opportunity that day. So I don't put a lot of stock in the dates or the solstices or any of that.
For sure, Druzer's right, because it could have taken 10 weekends of driving around to get a car in that spot. Like, we don't know how long the preparation was. It could have taken 2 weekends, could have taken 6 months to get a person. Because you can't control the victim. Location.
But I also want to add in one thing about that is we can also see ourselves in these types of stories, like with Gareth Penn, looking at the radians, thinking, oh, well, this guy must have known all about radians and Morse code and binary, because that was the stuff, that he knew about. Or you have Paul Avery saying that maybe the Zodiac Killer saw the Mikado while he was at college. Paul Avery's college put on the production of the Mikado. Or me, a true crime follower who follows the Jack the Ripper case. Maybe the Zodiac was a true crime follower who followed the Jack the Ripper case, and he paid a lot of attention to the dates. No, that wasn't the Zodiac. That was me paying attention to the dates. And there are a couple other reasons why I backed down from that hypothesis, but I guess, I've shared it on some Zodiac Mondays, but I'm sure you guys have some other stuff.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Mikado, but I just want to rip through these shots real quick, and then we can talk about this suspect that Hanson ends up following around, the mailman, and a little more Hanson background. So I don't know what pets those was that Jerry had when it showed them in the tanks. Were those like gerbils or mice or something? I didn't really gather that, but one of them dies, right, and he buries it under the big cross. That was
right.
That was
Rabbits.
That was a nice shot. Druzer, that big cross shot was a nice shot. Like I said, the VW bus pissed me off because obviously it was a Rambler. Grover says to Jerry about trying to get women with the wig. Sometimes I think you're an F word or something. So that's the first bad word reference of some anti-woke grindhouse dialogue. The argument he gets in with that woman at the restaurant when they rip off his wig or whatever, and no one calls me a bald-headed bastard. I mean, some of this dialogue was just, I was dying. I was absolutely dying at that. That was hilarious. The Lake Herman Road shooting, like I said, way off. The cop saying it was damn good shooting confused me. When Grover goes in and they interrogate him and he calls him a flunky Boy Scout, he's like talking crap to the cops. I'm like, I'm sure that would have went over well in the 70s. And then also they what's the word? They take his gun away and they're like, hey, shoot some test rounds so we can test the ballistics before you give it back to him. So dude would still take the firearm. He was obviously an unhinged individual the way presented in this plot. He takes the firearm back and then goes committing crimes with it after the police have already tested with it. Yeah, that was super Zodiac. Like no, you wouldn't just switch your gun, dude. Like even Zodiac would have switched his gun. So the scene of the Zodiac letters coming in when the journalist, I guess that was like a Avery stand-in, Druzer. That was pretty cool when he was reading the letter to the cops. That was probably one of the few decent things they pulled off.
I appreciate how they were able to compress the storytelling and actually get it out there without a police station, without more than one actor to be at the police station.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Making sense of the Cipher. It's madness. We talked about Grover taking his daughter hostage. What else do I have? Yeah, the Green Rock Park. You mentioned that. Ned and the altar, and then the spirit. Yeah, that's basically all I had. So basically, Hanson ends up like investigating, harassing, however you want to put it, this guy, and he's a mailman with a Japanese wife, and I don't know if you guys got any more details on that, but like, is his Japanese wife supposed to be the Zodiac Mikado connection? Because that's what I gathered from that. Unless it's just more Hanson reaching, I don't know. Hanson made a bunch of money selling a pizza chain. I know that. So if that helps with your knowledge, you guys are welcome.
Well, it's my understanding that she probably wouldn't have picked up on the Mikado in Japan because the Mikado was banned there. She'd have to be watching that in the United States. And Druzer knows this better than anyone. The Mikado was so popular back then. You know, I mean, it was even at Bakersfield Junior College in 1953. It was in Los Angeles in 1947 at the time of the Black Dahlia murder, which our friend Alex Baber is even using as part of his evidence packet for Marvin Margolis. So
yeah, I have a response for him when you're done.
All right, I'm done.
Do you have any commentary on Baber, Druzer? Would you like me to handle this?
You go ahead, Ross.
Did you see my dust up with Baber in the Zodiac Vault group, Ned?
No, I didn't. What happened?
We recently got into it, so people were posting David Oranchak's recent videos regarding the Baber suspect solve and the Baber incident, and then I roasted him, naturally me being me, for Dave absolutely ethering him in that video, and Baber's response was, Dave embarrassed me? Any publicity is good publicity. That was his response to David's first video. Then David posted his second video, so I linked Alex to that one, and I said, do you still think this is good publicity? Just curious. I think right around that point, Baber blocked me, and now I can no longer @ him on Facebook, but that's the long and short of it. Responses, gentlemen?
I don't think Dave made that video for Alex to see. I think he made it for the experts that Baber roped into the whole enterprise, who clearly didn't do their research or follow any legitimate protocol for their investigation. And I hope they see it.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'm with David 100% on the videos. Drew, Ned, if you have anything else.
Yes, it's just very simple. I'm tired of talking about this Marvin Margolis guy. I'm tired of talking about this Zodiac Black Dahlia connection from the Margolis angle. I mean, it's been months now, guys. It wasn't the day before Christmas. I think it was December 23rd or something when the story dropped, because it was right before Christmas Eve. And I was out Christmas shopping before I came back and responded to the news. And
further annoyed you.
Half a year now. And I just don't think that their investigation is going anywhere. It sounds like it's trash, and it's quite possibly that Baber knew it was trash. And Ross just brought up an example of it, openly said he likes the attention from it. So,
I have more. Not to cut you off, Ned. I highly recommend neither of you read it because I like both of you guys. Baber wrote a rebuttal to Oranchak's first video on his Substack. I got through about 20% of it before I just closed it and did much more important things with my time. But he literally went line by line trying to rebuttal every Oranchak, point. And I mean, whose opinion are you going to go on? The guy that was on the team that actually broke the cipher that was verified by the FBI, or Baber, who has changed his suspect multiple times and is obviously a complete charlatan? He got laughed out of the Maura Murray case and several other cold cases. David's point that Baber wasn't originally on this Lawrence Kane Margolis collaboration crime theory, which he later abandoned. Now it's just Margolis, I guess. I did challenge Baber to the Zodiac case debate, either on my channel or Ned's, and he didn't seem willing to do so because we're just lowly YouTube channels, Ned, and we're not Fox News and News Nation and the Daily Mail and the other fake news organizations that post Baber's trash. But
these authors don't like to talk to people who know the case. You'll find one after another. They're always on podcasts where the interviewer knows nothing. And that's where they're
I just want to say that I mean, I definitely talk about Marvin Margolis and this Zodiac Black Dahlia theory, but I've never reached out to Alex Baber for an interview because of everything you guys have just said. When the story came out, it was very questionable. After about 72 hours, and we had time to, really kind of process what happened, it was giving, there were a lot of hallmarks of deception or some sketchy things. And also, when, from the very beginning, we were aware that Alex Baber was not being completely truthful about how he discovered the name Marvin Merrill. And even in the comment section on Black Box Online Radio, I was contacted by Travis Miller, who runs the Lawrence Kane WordPress, and he claims that he's the one who discovered that Marvin Margolis was using the name Marvin Merrill in 2019 and provided it to Baber before anything to do with the Z13 cipher. What I think happened, and this is not testimony, this is what I think happened, is that after learning that Marvin Margolis used the alias Marvin Merrill, he tried to play around with it in the Z13 and found that the name fits if you unscramble the letters and match them to certain characters. So he's like, I don't need Lawrence Kane anymore. And then I've gone into this twice on Zodiac Monday about how you can make Marvin Merrill fit into the Z13 easily. It has the appropriate letters. Doesn't mean he was the Zodiac. Can you think of another person whose name would fit in the Z13 cipher? Like everyone?
Yeah, no, totally unsound science. Yeah, no, I mean, David's... Go ahead, Druzer.
Well, the worst thing about it was the timing. There was actually some good stuff happening in the community. We had, largely thanks to Dion Walker and Craig O and Gorilla Train and Richard. We were talking about, we got Sherry Joe Bates files released that no one had ever seen. We got Donna Lass files. The boys had really dug into all of the FBI files and gave us like a super duper coherent 20, 40 page list of all of the actions that the police took and who they were doing fingerprint comparisons to and who they weren't. We got some real data on the confusing variables about the partial prints in the Paul Stein cab. And then in comes Baber with this
I don't know
baloney. It's baloney. And that's what everyone's talking about instead of, God forbid, some actual forward movement in the case files. And now almost none of the top researchers in the Zodiac case post anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Dion came out with the new Riverside Suspect. Even kudos to what is his name? I just totally blanked on it. Unsolved More, Kenneth Maines. That suspect that the ladies whatever relative or whatever approached him on his channel. I mean, I don't think that's the Sherry. Grinnell put me onto that. I don't think that's the Sherry suspect, but that's way stronger than Look, Marvin Margolis would be perfect for me, right? Everyone says I'm the non-canonical guy. Ray Davis, Gaviota Beach, suspect, lives in Oceanside. You'd expect of all people me to be like, oh yeah, this guy nailed it. It's right in my backyard of all the stuff that I did. And even I think it's not even close. You know what I mean? Just because you live, that's meaningless. Oceanside is super far from the Bay Area. You know what I mean? So like, then he comes up with the bayonet, the Japanese bayonet that the suspect's son says is Korean. Like literally every building block of his argument fell apart before his own eyes. It really reminds you of when Thomas Colbert did that Cooper documentary on Netflix, Ned, and like all the members of his old team throughout the documentary were like, yeah, this is going nowhere. We're dropping out. That's a bit how you'd expect a Baber documentary to go on this Margolis crap.
Yeah, he's a con man.
That one called DB Cooper, Where Are You?
I think so, yeah. It was the
based
HBO
on the book
or something.
Outlaw, but The Last Master Outlaw was the book. And it's called DB Cooper, Where Are You? That's the Case Breakers, Tom Colbert thing, looking at Robert Rackstraw. Well, I mean, they tried with Cooper, they tried with Zodiac, and they're mostly over and done with as well. And yeah, it's going to be a matter of time before Alex Baber goes away. But Marvin Margolis will probably never disappear from the Zodiac world until we solve the case. He probably will stick around, and people will attach themselves to this theory, and they'll find new clues.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
It's a creative exercise for most people.
Yeah.
And all these people who think it's Margolis, they're not actually investing in the case.
When Druzer talks about these people coming to the case and posting about Zodiac and posting about these cold cases and it just being more true crime entertainment and having fun, that's essentially how I look at Baber. He's essentially a charlatan with this fake cold case website and company, but there's literally no science or evidence to back up Margolis. I don't know anything about Black Dahlia. Okay, so whatever, I'll let that be a whole nother community from ours. Ned, you follow it way closer than I do. But I did watch Larry Hargis. I did watch his videos that totally disproved it. So it's like it just strikes me as these people coming in and having fun. Either you want publicity and attention, or you're having fun because you're not giving us anything that says like this is evidence or this is reason why this is a solid suspect. Certainly none more than we've seen in all of these years of Allen and Shel Cavalli and all these other people that books have been written about years ago. You know what I mean? So it's like I just don't see anything to it. If anybody in the audience has this stuff, sees anything that they like in this stuff, please let us know. I'm going to take this question for Druzer real quick. My boy Restless Dreams, Druzer. Voight recently claimed Cheney told him he was a suspect for some murder case in another state. You covered this on BBOR, Ned. What is your opinion of it? This is the New Bedford serial killer in Massachusetts, Ned, if I'm not mistaken. Druzer?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I don't think it points to Cheney's guilt about anything. I don't think someone who has something to hide brings that up to the police. But it was really neat to read.
Yeah, that was random.
What I heard on BBOR was that, okay, it sounds like Don Cheney was a real suspect in the New Bedford serial killer case. And Tom Voight was talking to the person who wrote the book about it called Killing Season. So, I just picked up the book and there's a suspect list in there, but the name Don Cheney is not included on it. So either the police thought very highly of him or very poorly of him if he didn't even make the cut for the book.
For sure. But I mean, I think my understanding was he said they looked at him because of his work commute, apparently like driving by those locations where those bodies were dumped or whatever, which is like, okay, that's something you'd look at, but you got to imagine there's hundreds of people that had that same work commute, so it's not like.
Well, can I say something about Don Cheney? Because there are a couple of Don Cheney things here in the chat. And that is that as time has gone by, we've had the chance to kind of come down a little bit. It seems like Don Cheney is another habitual liar, total liar, giving false information. And, Drew Beeson said all of this from the very beginning. And even in his first video series, he points out Don Cheney's lies. But, I mean, Don Cheney was not the biggest attention whore in the world because he didn't do it so regularly and routinely. But when he was under the spotlight, he was just spitting nonsense. And, he's saying things that are blatantly and provably false. And we can go through all the specifics, or people can watch Drew Beeson's videos or read his books. But, I mean, he's just not a reliable person. And, Druzer, do you have anything?
About Don Cheney? No.
Druzer's way off it. He's nowhere near that suspect. Well, I'll bring up the same thing I always bring up, which is Zodiac is also a habitual liar based on his statements and letters that are several times disproven. So habitual liar is actually a quality that you do want in a Zodiac suspect, right? If you find a guy that is clean cut, no crimes, never told a lie to somebody, then he might not be Zodiac, unless there's just absolute no evidence to link him to anything, So
I try to stay open-minded, but if I don't make certain rules for myself about the profile, then I would go crazy. I don't consider anyone who lived 6+ hours drive away. I don't consider anyone who's left-handed.
For sure.
Yeah,
I've gotten into the left-handed thing with a lot of the Allenites. They disagree with me on I just don't see Allen at Berryessa in any way, shape, or form unless he's the lurker, which that picture don't really look like Allen to me.
He was right-handed.
Yeah.
I mean, the police don't say it, so I'm not going to be a jerk. They hounded a left-handed suspect for decades.
They tested Allen's right hand for, you know what I mean? Didn't they test his right hand for writing? So
Yeah, people don't respect handwriting analysis, but I think it's pretty valuable, at least in this case.
It's something. I'm not completely sold on it, but it's better than like the majority of nothing that we have in Zodiac, and we do have a lot of letters from him. Go ahead, Ned.
Well, I had a couple of kind of points that were all just going to be mashed into one. And I think, though, that when you were talking about how the Zodiac was a liar, that's absolutely true. But some of the lies that Don Chaney told was that Arthur Lee Allen told him that he was going to crash a plane into the Sears Tower, right? And the Sears Tower hadn't been built yet. He said that to Michael Bell.
Yeah, I love that one. That's a classic.
About stuff that he's lying about, that's just dumb. And it's like Cheney probably didn't know about the timelines and such. And also that one of the more prominent ones is that he said in his interview with Tom Voigt in 2000 or whenever it was, that he didn't recall the name Blue Rock Springs Park. Yet in 2007, for the documentary commentary, he said that Arthur Lee Allen walked him through Blue Rock Springs Park and gave him a tour. Normally, your memory gets worse with time, not better. And then all the details came back. And that leads me to the conclusion that Don Chaney is just saying things that were not true. And I'm not completely sure why. Vincent McConnell had an interesting take on the subject, and that is that, firstly, it started out where Cheney actually believed that Allen was the Zodiac because he was a terrible person. And he's like, okay, well, how can I get the police to listen to me? Well, what if I add in, like kind of a story that's a little bit more exaggerated than it actually is? Kind of what everybody seems to do when they're talking about the Zodiac case. Let me misrepresent the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Let me misrepresent the context so the authorities will take it more seriously. And then that was just the start of Don Chaney's wild storytelling. It's a very, very interesting idea, but if I don't know what the Zodiac was thinking, I certainly don't know what Chaney was thinking.
I mean, my thing about it is, like, they both drank. Allen and Cheney probably were drinking together around that time. I surmise that they probably just told each other a bunch of BS when they were drinking together, drunk, and you know what I mean? Like, so I wouldn't say either one is a bigger liar than the other. I'm sure they were just making up BS and rolling it around together, but how that all played out and the rest of it is Zodiac, part of the Vallejo milieu of Allen and Cheney. Did he know Allen? Did he know Cheney? Did he know either one of them? That's all the unanswered stuff that we just, have trouble getting to,
Was Allen's telling people in town that he was a Zodiac suspect because he didn't want people to know that he was actually getting in trouble for messing with kids and stuff like that?
Yep, that's a huge thing.
Did that word get out to Cheney? Did that word get out to Spinelli?
100%. That's the questions that I'm always asking. Great stuff. Did you guys happen to see my genius Z13 solution? Never took a crack at it up until recently, but in the vein of Baber and all these other case geniuses, we can now go on record say Ross Geraci solved the Z13. Very proud of myself.
No kidding.
So I put it in the chat here. Never even took a crack at it my entire life, Druzer. I stay far away from the ciphers. Don't like math. But mine is TheOphiuchusZ. Ophiuchus is the Sumerian 13th Zodiac that's left out of the original 12 Zodiacs. So it is technically the Z13. It's either IamOphiuchusZ or TheOphiuchusZ. Pretty happy with that one. Feel like it's a lot stronger than. Feel like it's a lot stronger than Baber's trash. I'm going to go on record with that one. So feel free to give me your kudos in the chat for my genius mind that I've just accumulated all this cipher knowledge from watching Dave Aranchak videos. Go ahead, Ned.
Follow that. It's kind of hard to follow that, but
yeah, for sure.
13 Zodiac signs. Well, when you guys were watching the 1971 Zodiac movie, did you catch that the Zodiac had his rabbits right in their cages, and he named them after the Zodiac signs? The rabbit that dies and he buries. I don't know if it's that one. I think the first rabbit he picks up is named Aquarius, and that's kind of the clue that he has rabbits, and he's named them after the signs of the Zodiac. Did you guys catch that?
Totally missed that, but it's genius. I like that element a lot. At least he got something in there, Druzer.
The first time I didn't see that, but I didn't catch that at all. But he's like, "Oh, Aquarius," and if people do that in film, this guy is very gentle with the rabbits, kind of like Alan and the Chipmunks.
100%. 100%.
They're like that. But like he's very gentle with the rabbits. Like I said, he genuinely like helps a kid get out of a tree. He buys a round of drinks for people. He's doing all of these things that are not very aggressive, but then he's a serial killer. And believe it or not, that is not surprising at all to me. And also, I've just kind of come to the conclusion that there is no typical serial killer behavior. I mean, anybody can be a serial killer, like the nice guy, the mean guy. So many serial killers are absolute jerks. They're people who were involved with domestic violence and they murder their partner. And like they frequently commit these murders, and then they just can't convict them and such, and it's terrible. But anyway,
well, that's the. Sorry, Ned. Go ahead.
Just they tried to make him look like a nice guy who has a dark side, but not all serial killers are like that. But I get it.
I have a movie for you, Ned. Have you ever seen Seven Psychopaths?
No, I haven't.
Well, the Zodiac Killer, and he's got a yard full of rabbits.
Okay, that's random. I'm going to write that down in my notes.
Not all I can extract of relevance, but that's a good movie.
That's crazy random. So here's what I was going to say about that. Like, sure, I totally get it. I mean, the whole point of this movie, right? They hammered it home many times. Was Zodiac can be anyone, your mailman, your trucker, your the bartender, whatever. I get it, but in terms of like the serial killer being like, having a relationship with animals that they can, unable to have with people. The one place where I don't see that at all is Arthur Lee Allen, because when they showed that archival footage in Netflix of him like rubbing on that dog and that dog was like licking him and obviously loved him, I just didn't see the Zodiac in that guy. Like I genuinely saw like a guy that loves his dog. I didn't see the Seawater stories as, well, this cracked it for me. He was good with his dog, but he was shooting teenagers at night. I just didn't see that with Alan. I think I totally missed the point of that Netflix documentary, which was trying to sell me like, well, Alan used to make his own, skin diver suits. So he definitely made his own Lake Berryessa hood executioner costume. I couldn't pick up any of the reaches that they were making that documentary. When they showed his dog, I just saw a guy that loved animals. That's what I saw.
Ross, I really had that experience too. But somebody contacted me and they referred to some comments that I made on BBOR, and they said they thought that the dog was afraid of Alan. They, they shared some very, very intricate and complex animal knowledge that I don't recall. I didn't even fully, understand it. Yeah. But like, they saw that. I didn't. I was on your side. I was like, yeah. No, the dog didn't seem to be bothered or afraid of him at all.
The guy rubbing his dog. Yeah.
Well, yes, and the dog was receptive. They said they thought the dog was not receptive. So I don't know what to think now. And anyway, just sharing, something.
Yeah, for sure. I used to be a dog trainer. I think I watched that documentary once. I didn't pick that up, but so any other final thoughts on did Tom Hanson solve the Zodiac crimes, guys? Do you buy his mailman suspect? Did you find anything else on the suspect, Druzer? The Japanese wife, the mailman, is this the Zodiac that got away and they cornered him at the theater and blah 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 blah? You guys see where I'm going with this? Any buy-in on Tom Hanson's Zodiac suspect from either one of you?
No, I mean it's one of those the hardest part about the case is that there isn't enough data to know anything conclusively, but there's enough data that you can extrapolate and say, well, he was an electronics genius. He knew the newspaper business. He knew how to build bombs. He was a theater goer. You can do that, but anyone could have reproduced all of the knowledge that Zodiac expelled in his letters. He wasn't necessarily an expert in any of these things.
Right.
Did he work adjacent to any of these fields? Maybe. Did he read a lot? I don't know. So like a postal worker, a frustrated postal worker, that's as good as any. But I don't know. I don't think Zodiac gave us any helpful clues. And that's sort of my big divide with a lot of people in the community, is I don't think he was trying to help us out with any of this
give things away. Sure. No, I think you have an angle there. Real quick, Ned, before you jump in, just I guess the mailman career is like the Zodiac correspondence angle. Again, I just don't think to be a letter writer, you don't necessarily need to be a postal worker, right? You're fully capable of writing a letter and putting a stamp on it and mailing it without working in that industry. But go ahead, Ned.
Well, we're going to have to ask Ray Grant about that, if he wants to weigh in on that specific issue. He was a mailman for 37 years. But as far as what Druzer was just saying, I don't think the Zodiac revealed too much about his real life and occupation in the letters. Everything that he was saying about, like, the references is spot on. The Zodiac never truly showed expertise in these things. All right, he said the word radians. That doesn't mean he was a mathematician or PhD in mathematics. And, he drew the bomb diagram. That doesn't mean that he had sophisticated knowledge of bombs, because people have heavily criticized it. Moreover, did the Zodiac Killer ever successfully detonate a bomb? I don't believe so. In the Zodiac letters do have very specific references, though. And I think that sometimes he included references that maybe he didn't even expect people to pick up on. But that, again, that's like the little shard, the shard of truth that is, broken off. For example, let's say, how about the Wheel of Death from the Tim Holt comics? How about the flying V symbol that people are just still banging their heads against the wall trying to figure out, which I still say the most similar flying V is from the Red Rider comics. And you guys must have seen the Red Rider coloring book with the flying V that is only missing the dots. And, I mean, this is an unpopular opinion, but I think when the Zodiac wrote the Halloween card, he was just thinking about Westerns. Tim Holt, Red Rider, and, it's kind of just maybe in the back of his mind because it's not a Western-themed card, but it's stuff like that. Like, he's giving us some clues unintentionally about the type of material he's familiar with, but it doesn't reveal expertise. Absolutely not. And we'll probably find out that the Zodiac was probably just a very plain and simple person if we ever get to know his identity one day. And, I mean, if Druzer wants to weigh in on some of this, I'd really like to know what he thinks about some type of, just educational backgrounds, intelligence backgrounds, the type of books, that he would have been reading and so on. We even have a good comment here from Restless Dreams, if Ross wants to pull that up.
Yeah, real quick on that. Graysmith always comes back to that code-breaking book, Druzer, that he says he went to every San Francisco library and it was stolen from every local library, meaning Zodiac went around and stole the copy of that code-breaking book. Do you take that as a Zodiac reference, or is it just kind of... And then also what Ned said.
There's, A, no reason why a library would divulge that information, and B, there's no reason to believe Graysmith about anything.
Sure, yeah, okay, that's fine. And then reacting to Ned on...
But, he's a liar.
And reacting to Ned on Zodiac's expertise or industrial fields.
I think Zodiac was an intelligent fellow. I think you can see that with his overall scheme. I think you can see that he has an upper level appreciation for grammar and language. I think you have to look at all the letters as completely highly contrived, and that he's trying to create an effect with the way he speaks, and he may not be a great speller, but he knew how to spell a lot of the words that he spelled incorrectly. I think he was probably being self-conscious when he'd spell a word incorrectly here and then correctly later. I think he sort of wanted people to know that he wasn't illiterate, but he's still trying to convey this madman persona who will go on a killing rampage and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, I mean, the Badlands card, if you buy it, right, he jumps to sensibilities and all these much more longer words that his IQ skyrocketed between spelling victim wrong and then writing the Badlands letter. So
he knows how to use a semicolon. Yeah. I mean, seriously, I think that divides a lot of people.
Yeah, interesting grammatical things. Pixie said Year of the Rabbit. Go ahead, Ned.
Well, it's just, I was talking about this recently about how I disagreed with the Console podcast when they said they thought the Zodiac didn't have a university education because they thought that he left misspellings in his writings because he had never submitted university papers that were heavily scrutinized or paying attention to his spellings. And I think that that's a purely superficial take on the subject. And it's kind of hard to challenge former FBI profilers, but very superficial. I think the truth is something more of what Druzer said. And Druzer, it's just kind of like what you were going at, because this is how I phrase it. He was a bad speller, but he overcompensated for it by including intentional misspellings because he didn't want people to think that he was dumb. So he did it in this kind of sneaky way where he could hide his real misspellings. Because if he misspelled a word intentionally, he could always just fall back on, oh yeah, he did it on purpose. He couldn't spell victim. He couldn't spell kid. He couldn't spell Friday. But
yeah, the carelessness had an effect of disrespectfulness. You know, he was taunting them by supposedly not caring about his spelling. You know, he didn't want it to seem like he had intricately mapped out everything he was going to say beforehand. It's just spontaneous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if he had secondary schooling, but I think he was an intelligent guy, and I think he knew what he was doing, but at the same time, it was rather spontaneous. You know,
sure.
A lot of the decisions he made.
Yep, I agree with that. The whole misspelling tone, maybe earlier on, not including like The Exorcist, where like comedy and satirical are like swapped, but like just the like victim and just the totally random stuff. It much more strikes me as a persona writing style, like a very campy like 60s Batman TV show, you know, Joker or Riddler, like that type of thing, where it's just like almost like a campy Batman villain, you know, that's just kind of writing these kind of crazy, unhindered, you know, letters to the police or something, you know. So it's like, I don't think he puts much stock in it, you know. That's like the Zodiac persona, you know. The question for Druzer from our boy Restless, our boy Seth, Radian thing means Zodiac absolutely had some type of mathematical background. It is also in his Z32 cipher, according to himself. I mean, I can see it, but I don't know if I'm 100% sold.
I don't like definitive statements like that. I don't think that can truly be supported. It's a possibility, but the key takeaway is that we can't know any of these things for sure. It's possible. We don't know what's relevant.
But I want to push back on this Radian thing because I'm not a math person. Ross was saying he's not a math person either, so he can empathize. But I did know people who were math people, and they said that they worked with radians in high school trigonometry classes, even going back, you know, to like, you know, the 70s and such. And if this is just high school trigonometry, then that wouldn't necessarily mean that he has a strong mathematical background. I mean, when we look at this question and statement, Radian thing means Zodiac absolutely had some type of mathematic background. Well, high school trigonometry isn't a very impressive mathematical background. And the Radian thing, I just think, is blown out of proportion. I don't necessarily think that it's, what Gareth Penn intended, that we have to be dealing with somebody who has this advanced understanding of mathematics, who hit all of these little signatures everywhere. Some of them maybe, I mean, it's like kind of what Druzer said, it's possible. So a definitive statement is very hard to make with this one. It's, you know, we shouldn't be making this definitive statements about how, oh, well, this had to have been created by someone with a master's or a PhD. Wait, why? How do you know that that's what really happened?
If it was such a high mathematical IQ propensity, I would have at the very least expect that he would want his shooting accuracy to be way higher than what it was. Because if that was so, what is a target, right? Zodiac's logo. If you take the circle bisected by the cross, that's the basic average. If you go to any shooting range, that's essentially the target you would see. Now, if he was a shooting expert, you know, you'd expect him to have done something with those shots on Betty's back. And I'm not saying that this is a master plan or that it's this prepared or just he would have went this route scientifically, Druzer. But if he's a mathematical genius and he's a shooting expert, wouldn't you expect him to do something like draw a design on her back with the shots, and then you take where those rounds landed and you put that down on the map of Mount Diablo where the Zodiac crimes occurred, much like the movie From Hell, Ned, where they take the Ripper's crimes and it's like the upside down pentagram and it's like, oh, it's a satanic, serial killer or whatever. He could have actually placed the shots on her back that would have been the canonical locations, or what is the word? Is it the radians? He could have mapped out the radians on her back that you could have took the shots and superimposed it on the map if he was going for some overarching astrological radian thing. And it's like, he never takes it to that level. He never goes to the thing where it all amounts into some zodiacal cycle that is a master plan. We just never see it, unless it's never put together or never explained, case-wise.
All right, I'll give a little something. It's pretty odd that a radian coming from Mount Diablo comes awful darn close to the Solano County crimes and the Washington and Cherry intersection in San Francisco. That's a pretty weird coincidence.
Sure.
But I think it's a mistake to look at Zodiac as a perfectionist with a grand scheme.
Sure.
This is a guy who, even in his first cipher, he misses letters, maybe even an entire line, and he just carries on.
Yep.
He tries to make a joke to the police by writing no address at the end of his debut, and he realizes that he needs another D in there. So he doesn't scrap the piece of paper and just write it over again. He doesn't care enough. So he just squiggles in a little extra,
squeezes it back in.
This guy is not a perfectionist. It's not a grand scheme. That's my definitive statement.
I agree. I think he hints at a master plan, a grand scheme master plan, and maybe wants the public to think that there is one much more than he executed one that can be extrapolated in any way. Any response, Ned?
Oh, yes. We have a couple of things here in the chat. Firstly, from Fire Pixie. That's how I knew what it was, high school. Also, somebody else we have right here who learned about radians in high school,
Monique.
Giving likelihood that they were taught that way. But then Ross just actually had the next one that I wanted to talk about from Monique on the screen already. Radians were used in celestial navigation. Yes. Mm-hmm. And you can read about that in the book, The American Practical Navigator. It is filled with discussions on radians. And who's been the loudest voice about this? Michael Cole.
Cole
recommended that to me. And I was like, all right, I'll hear you out, Michael Cole. I found a copy of The American Practical Navigator online. And is it radian this, radian that? It's all about radians. And it's really kind of speaking to some of Michael Cole's credibility when he talks about how the Zodiac may have been ex-Navy or ex-Air Force. Most people believe that the Zodiac had a military background. Not everyone, absolutely not everyone. But if I had to make a determination, I probably would say he was ex-Navy. And that partially is due to some of the military activities in the Bay Area, the bases and so on.
Yeah,
but yes. Again, like I said, probably, much like Druzer said, once we make definitive statements, it gets really messy because, like Druzer, to speak to your point, how would you feel if I told you that 100% the Zodiac was in the Navy? What would you say to that?
He had to hate that with a passion.
You'd have to know who the Zodiac was, and I'd be interested to know.
About Indians and celestial navigation and the American Practical Navigator. He learned
registration card.
Wing walkers. I mean, he was walking on the wings of naval planes on an aircraft carrier. I mean, have I convinced you yet that he was in the Navy?
Nope.
See, like that's what a lot of these narratives are like. They have points. They have real supporting points. And, I mean, it's possible. But as we've already just said right now, he could have been in the Air Force. Don Chaney was in the Air Force, who we were just talking about.
Just about to say that. I was just about to say that.
Going in on these kind of like very specific things, it almost creates room for specific errors. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, well, it's because it's boxing yourself in. Go ahead.
boxing yourself in.
I think there's just a lot of common skills that maybe aren't present in people today.
100%.
But like men know how to sew. That doesn't mean they're in theater. You know.
Yeah.
Guys know how to read a map. That doesn't mean they're trained. You know.
Yep. Yeah. Those are just like, yeah, I agree. I think they're more common skills for back then. I mean, also, Ned brought up Cheney's Air Force experience. I was going to mention that. I was going to give, okay, Navy, I mean, Marines, whatever, Navy, military, but I was also going to say like other careers like Coast Guard. Wouldn't they use some celestial navigation? Wouldn't merchant Marines use some less celestial navigation? Obviously, Air Force. So there's, it's, and then, again, like the wing walkers, sure, but wouldn't the Air Force be using those as well? So, I mean, it's like and even those were common among prison guards, which is why, the MacDuff is semi-interesting.
And sold everywhere in Army surplus stores.
Secondhand.
There's an asterisk next to every one of these points.
Yeah. And that's why law enforcement followed them all up, and there wasn't much to find. Go ahead, Ned.
With wing walkers, didn't they produce 1 million pairs of them? And they had so many of them that's why they ended up at the surplus stores, because that's like really the literal meaning of surplus, right? Mm-hmm. They had too many pairs of wing walkers. So that's really not like a strong point. But like we were talking about Army. Oh, no, I gave it away. We talked about Navy, Air Force, Marines, Merchant Marines. But even the Army has an air division, an aviation division, even to this day, right? So when you're just talking about wing walkers, yes, it could be military, could be surplus. I mean, aren't we just back to square one? Doesn't that just show that, like, he wore the fuse?
Well, that's why he's in the military. That's literally half the population, maybe more.
Yeah.
I don't.
And those records that burned in, what was that, a 70s fire, Druzer, were a bunch of the wrecks. So it's like, again, when people bring up the fingerprints, like, I like it, but unless it's in APHIS, like, or let's say he wasn't in the military at all, well, then he knows the print is not going to get linked back to him, to some degree. So I don't know what is. Can you guys put me on to Bowditch? I don't know what that is, Monique. You have to put me on to him.
Oh, yeah. I can send that to you, Ross.
Hell yeah.
Or Monique can in Discord.
Yeah, for sure. Ned, please start your interview series again. They were absolutely amazing. I remember working night shifts listening. I think Ned actually did restart them, if I'm not mistaken, Seth, because you did Morph, Ned, and you did a few new ones. Maybe Grant. Can you go ahead and explain that?
I've done a few new ones, yes. I think this person might be referring to the Interview with the Expert series. Now, I've been doing the Zodiac Monday interviews, but I've been doing solo episodes for about the last 3 weeks. Yes, this year on Black Box Online Radio, I've been doing some Zodiac Killer interviews, as Ross just said, with Mike Morford. And also interviewed Eddie McNamara about his new book, Zodiactually, H.N. Lloyd about his new book, Murder Tales Zodiac. I'm really trying to talk to the authors of the newest Zodiac Killer books and inviting them on to discuss them, as well as just people who are putting out new Zodiac Killer content. It doesn't have to be a book. I had Tim Carter on talking about his new website, thezodiacsolve.com, and websites, podcasts, and even Paul Brookbanks was a guest on the program talking about a proposed solution to the Z32 Cipher. So I really just want to talk to people who are putting out new Zodiac content, invite them on Zodiac Monday. And, you guys can give your responses in the comment section. And even if you absolutely disagree with the guest, just express yourself. I disagree with the guest for this reason. And that's mostly the long and short of it. Yes, it's been off. I've been doing solo episodes for about the last 3 weeks, but they'll come back soon.
I think we're like 2.5 hours in, boys. I don't want to take up your whole day. I think we'll land the plane. Maybe let's end with some Zodiac Killer 1971 film reviews. It has a 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb with just over 1,000 reviews, Druzer. I can start us off being the host of the program. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Really fantastic unintentional comedy moments, not necessarily realistic. I think we've covered most of the other points. Whichever one of you guys want to jump in with a rating. Go ahead.
Okay. Ross has given the Zodiac Killer 1971 film a 6. I'm going to give it a 5 because, we cannot deny the historical inaccuracies. And I know that Druzer said they have some reasons for that. These were very recent and contemporary cases. But as somebody who is watching this in 2026, it doesn't stand the test of time. It's this enormous blend of real stuff with fake stuff. And the thing that I said at the beginning was very clearly.
That means I need to feed my cats.
I got you.
I thought I was doing some background music, theme music or something. I was like, I don't mind, but it's a blend of like real stories with fake stories, and then it creates a very awkward presentation for guys like us, who are closely following the Zodiac Killer mystery, and also very awkward things, like nobody calls me a bald-headed bastard. Very uncomfortable
Genius dialogue.
And some of the crimes committed by the Zodiac, we didn't get to talk about one of the Kathleen Johns incidents. There are multiple ones in the film where he puts the woman under the hood of the car and just starts banging it up and down and jumping up. And
yeah. Jeez.
And the first the clip that Ross showed, like from the still, he picks up the entire wheel, like the tire and the rim and everything, and he beats her with that. And awkward, bizarre, uncomfortable film. All
Got
around.
a little away from the Zodiac canonicals there, didn't we, on some of those?
At least they had fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Any final thoughts, Drews, or your rating, wherever you want to go with it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I didn't enjoy it. I did. It's going to be a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
I'll give it 6.
5.
5, 6. Okay. I'll give it a 9 because it really needs the help.
One of the higher ratings than I was expecting.
No, I really like it. Druzer, I think all of us appreciate your skepticism and your ability to think very clearly and not be clouded by a lot of the emotions that go on in the Zodiac sphere. But when it comes to movies, you're absolutely in a different direction. Yep, 9.
No criticisms. It was just brilliant.
Yeah, just as good as Fincher. Nothing wrong with it. Realism on point. That's not how blood flows, guys. As Druzer mentioned, they work on the squibs, but other than that, the Tom Hanson pizza guy suspect. Does it move your guy's needle at all that he made the movie to try to catch Zodiac for real? Any kudos? Does it just make it more interesting of a film? That it had a purpose.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I said no because it's like it doesn't change my appreciation for the film as watching it 50 some odd years later. Was it 55 years later? Because we're so far removed from that operation that they pulled. I guess Ross still has the new case, so it's always new to somebody. And I mean, it's an interesting story, but I also want to point out that I gave it a 5 because of like the inaccurate stuff. But it is very engaging. You can watch it and you will not get bored. You're not gonna think that it's slow paced. It's intense. They have some engaging characters, interesting characters. Even Grover, the terrible, terrible slug that he was, he's an interesting character that you'd like to see in a movie. I'm glad I don't know him in real life, but it is an entertaining movie.
Yeah, interesting. Of course, I love the Satanism theme. You guys know my Church of Satan connection, the cult of one. Definitely hit that note. Why they have the Act 1 Grover red herring, I don't exactly know. That's a bit like the, what is that chapter when Graysmith is researching Marshall and Fincher, and he goes to the house and the floorboards are above him, and they have that like Marshall red herring. Like that's a bit like what the Grover is like. It's like a random red herring. I mean, why waste a whole act on that? Where no, it's not actually Jerry. It's Jerry's friend Grover who declares himself the Zodiac before dying from the cops, and then gets the headline, which pisses off Jerry, aka the Zodiac. It's a interesting narrative choice. I don't know what would have led to that, but hey. Kudos to Hanson. I mean, I think he had a good idea with the Kawasaki and the raffle. Honestly, I like the idea of accepting the little notes and trying to compare it to Zodiac's handwriting. That was certainly clever. They had the plainclothes police officers. As for what Graysmith said about, jacking off in the bathroom to the blood scenes, I think he did some Graysmithing there. But that's kind of where I'm at on it, boys. Appreciate you guys coming on for the review.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good stuff,
Thanks.
boys.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, great stuff. Find Druzer on the Discord. Find him on the Tap and Talk. If you got to feed the cats, Druzer, you can do what you got to do. And then,
Right.
Ned, you want to do your drops so people can find you?
Take care, boys.
Peace out, man. Good show. Appreciate you coming on.
And yes, once again, to everybody who's listening to this live, thank you to Ross for having me on. My name is Ned Dehan, also known as Black Box Ned. I'm the host of Black Box Online Radio on YouTube. I said it right that time. Every Monday, I do an episode about the Zodiac Killer called Zodiac Monday. And I've also been doing some interviews about the Zodiac that have come out recently. And I'm going to have more guests on the program, a diverse arrangement of guests. But one more time, you can find it as Black Box Online Radio on YouTube. On the podcast circuit, such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can find it under the names Black Box True Crime or Black Box Podcast. And hopefully I'll do some live again for Fire Pixie. I saw that there. And for Restless Dreams, hopefully we'll do some more interviews as well. I listen to you guys in the chat. All right, other than that, Ross, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, my brother. Ned and I are working on some scheduling, so hopefully I'll get over there soon with him after I drop episode 5 and try to make that happen for you guys. Satisfy some people looking for some new interviews. If you got to take off, Ned, I can do our outro, but appreciate you coming through. Support Ned on Buy Him a Coffee. Check his link on the BBR channel.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you coming on. Have the Daily Mail reach out to me, guys. Oops, looks like I forgot to. Well, I guess this technically was a Paradigm review show. It's a little hybrid show, as we said. Yes, thank you, Pixie. Appreciate you helping me out with that. But somebody call Fox News or Fox Nation and let them know that I solved the Z13, because now that, Baber and all these geniuses are just declaring themselves to have these Cipher solves, thought, why don't I just jump on the bandwagon and do what everybody else does and just say I solved the Z13? That way Fox News and Daily Mail and Fox Nation or News Nation. To be honest with you, I don't even know what any of those channels are called. Great show. If you guys haven't seen the film, go check it out. Zodiac Killer 1971. This is my Blu-ray Japanese import. You can watch the film free on YouTube. Link is in the description. You can watch the film free on Tubi. If you guys have any last final questions for me before I go, I'll take them really quickly. And then I'm going to get out of here as well. Yeah, watch out for Jerry. He's a crazy guy. His boy Grover might be crazier than him, trying to saw a little girl in half with a handsaw. Appreciate Monique coming through. Hit her up on the Zodiac groups on Facebook. And trying to think if I missed anything else. I think we hit most of my notes here. Like I said, I solved the Z13. That's really the big news here. Zodiac Files Episode 5, the Lake Herman Road Ambush, coming soon. Of course, you can click the join button for a membership. You can join over on Patreon. You can join for free with your Gmail. Like, sub, share. Always appreciate the subs here, guys. We get super shadow banned hard on this channel, guys. So whatever you can do to like, sub, share, and spread the word always helps. If you want to take it to the next level, we have 3 tiers of the memberships. Those are, Gorilla, Inspector, and Vigilante. So check those out. Might be interested in doing like a Black Dahlia Zodiac case connection if we can find the right guest. Certainly won't be Baber, but he's definitely, of course, the debate invitation always goes out to him. And if he thinks my channel is biased, then we can do it on any channel he pleases. Yeah, I was going to say on the consult stuff, I haven't been super... I don't want to crap on other people's content, but basically what Ned was saying, like, I find that stuff very general when they're just going on to, like, this is the profile of the Zodiac, and he's definitely this, and he's definitely that, and he spelt words wrong, so da-da-da-da. I just find those to be a very linear, non-interesting conversation on my end, so really not the type of content I consume. Pop over to the Patreon. Shout out to Pixie helping with the links as always. You want me to make a short about my Z13 solution? I just don't really have much to say about it other than what I'm going to copy paste in the description. And let's be honest, my Cipher videos are not on the level of Dave Aranchax, who actually knows what he's talking about. So is there that? Would be interested in getting Cole on for another part 2 interview and maybe going through some of my leftover questions for him. But as you guys know, we were on site. We shot Lake Herman. We shot Blue Rock Springs. I'm probably going to be heading up to Lake Berryessa in the late fall to shoot episode 7. and that'll probably drive you guys nuts because we're shooting all these episodes future episodes, and we haven't released past ones, but you guys just got to deal with that. So like, sub, share, click the join button to get a membership. And like I said, all members, you are going to get your names in the credit of the last 4 episodes of the Zodiac Files, the 4 canonicals. And you also get 24-hour early access to episode 5, episode 6, the Blue Rock Springs attack, and episode 7, Lunatic at Lake Berryessa. So that's probably as far as I'm going to take it, guys. Looks like viewership's dropping off, and you guys don't have any questions for me. So you go get you could pay for overpriced Japanese import like I did. There might be some American versions left, but I think they're becoming pretty rare because I think they only pressed so many copies of it. I can't remember if that was Arrow Video who did the hard copies, or one of those companies like that. If it wasn't Arrow, it might have been one of the other ones. I think that's pretty much it for me, guys. No other questions for me. Then I'm just going to put my solution back in there one more time. Ross Z13 solution. Not even sure if I'm spelling this right. Is it I think it's something like that. TheOphiuchusZ 13th Zodiac. Unless I butchered that spelling, which is also possible. All right, guys. That seems to be it. Any more questions, comments? You like the interviews? You like the commentary, the movie reviews? Just go ahead and leave comments. I usually respond back to most of them. And I think that's it. I got other things to do, so I'm probably going to go ahead and get out of here. Shout out to Ned for coming through. Subscribe to his channel, BBOR, Black Box Online Radio. You can always hit up Druzer on Tapatalk or the Discords. So Voight has his Discord. And there's a couple other Zodiac Discord, Zodiac Theory. So it is what it is. I'm out. Get at me. Shout out to Pixie. Shout out to everybody who came through. Appreciate all you guys, all the Ned heads who came through for Black Box. Feel free to subscribe if you guys are new. Like, sub, share. Click the join button for membership. Head on over to Patreon. I do the most, if you guys are unfamiliar with what I do here, the Most Dangerous Game film adaptations reviews. I put them all on the Patreon. And the last one I did was Deadliest Prey. It was an absolutely abhorrent sequel to Deadly Prey, 1987. It's really trash, like 30 years later. Deadliest Prey made this movie look like Casablanca. Deadliest Prey made this movie look like The Godfather. Deadliest Prey made this movie look like Citizen Kane. All right, guys, I'm getting off the reservation here. I'm out. That was fun times. Dark Side, appreciate you coming through. I need a glass of water, guys. I'm out. Peace. Like, sub, share. Click the join button for membership. Hit us up on Patreon. You can join for free on your Gmail. Until next time, Zodiac Files, Episode 5, the Lake Herman Road Ambush, coming soon.